now? Okay, yeah, we should be good.
I'll give it a few seconds. And turn the volume down. Hello and welcome to the Big League Show. As always, I'm Connor Somerville, joined by Mr. Aiden Silliphant, and today we're coming back after missing a week last week because exams, even though I didn't have any, and assignments are hell. But that doesn't matter because this week we're joined by someone who we're very excited to have on. Someone who it is very difficult to find information on because he is a little bit private on social media, and there's a child actor who shares his name, who takes up all of the search results, which, when doing research, is kind of annoying, but that's my own issue. Instead of this random child actor, we're joined by someone who used to be like me, in a skinny little scrawny kid, and is now much bigger and much better looking. Mr. Ethan Pogue. How are you doing today, Ethan?
I'm good, guys. Thank you very much for having me on. I'd also like to point out that not only is there a child actor that shares my name and takes up all the search results, I'm pretty sure there's a doctor in Los Angeles that shares my name, and he does breast implantation. So shout him out too.
Shout out to him as well. Yeah.
He's a great YouTube channel. I'm not gonna link it, but
It's a YouTube. Wow. Okay.
yeah, I know.
I didn't see that. Thanks.
It's tough for the Ethan Pogues out here. I'm not gonna lie. I appreciate
Clearly-
that.
Link will be in the description.
Yeah, for sure.
It will not be, because I won't let Aiden do that.
Alright.
Because we're not giving some random doctor in LA some random shout out, even though we just did.
Yeah, my bad, guys.
All right.
This is going to be a very fun conversation, I can already tell, because we did share a class together, and I guess I'll ask our first question before we dive into that class. Later on, when we start talking about university, and it's the one that you prepared for, as you mentioned before we started recording and going live, and that is, what is your first memory of sports, and what is your first memory of sport media?
I'm ready. I've been studying. I did my homework. So my first memory of sport, I grew up in a small town in Port Hope, Ontario, which is about a half hour east of Oshawa. It's about 16,500 people. So very much so like your typical traditional run-the-mill small town Ontario town that focuses mostly on hockey. And my dad grew up in a neighboring town called Coburg. And his whole life, he always wanted to play hockey, but he didn't really necessarily have the money growing up to play hockey. So I remember he told me the story when he was like 12 that he saved up all summer long to buy some hockey gear, and he tried out for the rep team, and he made the rep team. He was so excited. He went home, and he asked his stepfather if he could get a ride to practices and the games. And his stepdad said no, and he never got to play hockey. So my dad's goal growing up was to raise a son who would become like a hockey star. So I remember when I was a kid, my dad would wake me up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We would go outside. We would roll the backyard with this like big roller thing, and we would ice over the grass, which was like super bumpy. And we'd wake up at 5:45, 6 o'clock in the morning. We'd go and we'd go get like 300, 400 shots in the morning and work on skating on super bumpy grass. So like I think playing hockey in my backyard was like my first memory of sport. And hockey was definitely like my first love, my first passion. And then I think my first memory of sports media was the Don Cherry Rock'em Sock'em DVDs that came out, I think, in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my best friend at the time, Andrew Curry, who was on my hockey team, we would go into the basement of his house. We would put in the DVD. He would throw on the goalie pads, and I would throw on some like mini stick stuff. And whatever we saw like on the TV screen, we would mimic in his basement. So we were getting a full like fist fights, like throwing haymakers, like leaving like sweaty with like blood and stuff. And his mom's like, "What are you guys doing out there down there?" I'm like, "I don't know, just working on our game, bro." Like that's all that's going on. So I think for sport media, yeah, like as much as like Don Cherry's kind of dwindled down in importance and cultural significance, especially with recent events and his comments that are xenophobic, especially the Rock'em Sock'em DVDs were like a major part in me understanding like what sport media is and how impactful it can be. So yeah. I was prepared for those two questions. I appreciate that.
I think you're the first person who was actually prepared for them. So shout out to you, first of all, for that.
Yeah.
But then, yeah,
of
also,
course.
I think I can relate to that a lot. Like, just watching Don Cherry, like, even not the Rock'em Sock'em DVDs, but just watching him as a young child on TV, like, that's a big sport media moment for me as well to start off my childhood. And then playing mini sticks in a basement, that's, like, classic hockey. So you mentioned that your dad wanted to raise a son to become a hockey star. So Ethan Pogue, are you a hockey star now?
No, man. So I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'll
Are
be
you
like,
sure, beer league bender?
so you did your homework. So like, basically, I grew up in the small town. So like, it's a kind of like a big fish in a small pond scenario where like I was pretty good, but like I was pretty good for like my relative experience, right? So like, my house league team, like I was like one of the better players, and I remember like. I would score a lot, and I was very cocky individual. And then I got super humbled once I made like the rep team that would travel and go to like other places like along the 4-1 basically and play hockey, like in Napanee, Belleville, those types of places, Kingston. So no, I ended up losing a lot of the love for the sport. I think a lot of people can kind of attest to this too. Like the culture of hockey, like eventually kind of got to a point where it was more so about the winning and the politics around the parents and the coaches rather than the kids actually developing skills and like learning the love for the game. And I think my mom was like kind of getting sick and tired of the culture of hockey and how like toxic it can be. And she didn't love the traveling in the winter. And they ended up pulling me out of hockey when I was like 13. And my dad put me in basketball, which was like his favorite sport growing up. So that kind of became my second love for sports.
Then what sort of drew you to the media side of sports then?
That's a great question. So, growing up, like I remember when I was like 13, I think I had asked I always loved making videos, and my mom got me a GoPro camera, which was a horrible decision because that basically just enabled me to video me doing like the most dangerous things possible. And I grew up, so my mom was a teacher, right? So we would spend all school year like in Port Hope, and I would do class. But in the summertime, she had all summer off, so we would spend the entire summer at my cottage. So I had all summer to kind of like create these crazy ideas and make these videos. And I kind of fell in love with like the kind of like the content creation aspect of sport media. And it kind of came from like the extreme sports kind of angle. Like I like to do wakeboarding and water skiing and tubing and jumping off cliffs and that sort of thing and swimming. And then as I got older, like I kind of fell in love with like the NBA and the storylines that come from ESPN First Take, as one does, and that kind of slowly evolves over time into like deeper critical thinking of sports in general that you would learn in sport media theory class with Curtis Mallory or whatever, which personally was one of my favorite classes.
You're teeing us up, but we have to talk about that a little bit later because you've clearly done your homework.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to dive into a bit more your high school and stuff like that. Obviously, you played a lot of sports, but when did you sort of discover that sport media and Ryerson might be an option for you to go to university? Did you have this in mind sort of from the onset, like year after you got the GoPro, or was it something you sort of discovered like Skylar and Jelani, who we've had the last couple weeks, where you discovered it more like grade 12 as you're applying?
True, it's a good question. So, I'm gonna give you the long answer because you said I could. My nan was an educator. My mom went to Queen's University for concurrent education, so she became a teacher. My sister went to Queen's University for concurrent education. She became a teacher. She's now teaching as well. So like, there's this long line of kind of like educators in my family, and that was kind of like the path I was headed down, and definitely what my family was leaning towards me doing. And I remember when I got into high school, like I always kind of figured like I'm just gonna get really good grades, I'm gonna apply to Queens, and I'm gonna go and be a teacher. And then I remember when I was in grade 10, one of my former teammates came home, and his name was Connor Dobis, and he was my sister's age, and he said, "Oh man, like I just got accepted in this great program. It's called Sport Media at Ryerson University." I was like, "Oh my god, like sport media, like that sounds awesome. Like I wonder what that's about." And I went home, I did a ton of research on it, and I was like, I instantly fell in love. Like I knew right then and there that like this is something that like is a passion of mine. It's definitely a hobby. Like I enjoy consuming it, and I also enjoy like certain aspects of creating this type of content. So it was always kind of like in the back of my mind I was going to do it, but I didn't tell anybody. Like nobody knew this was something I wanted to do. So I remember in grade 12, I applied to multiple different programs. I got into Queens for concurrent education, and I got like a $6,000 scholarship. And I like went over and I had good marks in grade 12. Don't ask me how. And then I got my mom some flowers, and she thought when I like came to her school and gave her the flowers and told her I got in that I was going to be the next person up to go to Queens to become an educator. And then I think like a week later, I got the acceptance for the interview process at Ryerson, or I think that's how that worked.
Yeah.
And I think right then and there, like I went home and I explained to my family like what had happened and what I was looking to do. And I think it was like the first time in my life, because I'd always kind of followed my sister's footpath, like her path, and like kind of like stepped in her footsteps growing up. And like every decision she kind of made, I followed as well. And that was just kind of how that worked. I was never like really a free thinker. I always kind of compare myself to her. And that was the first decision I ever made in my life, to choose Ryerson that would go against the status quo of my life so far. So that was definitely the first like independent decision I made. And man, I can't lie to you, like it's probably the best decision I ever made. So that's pretty much the story of how I found out about it.
Was that scary for you, having to tell them that you'd prefer going to sport media than Queens?
Yeah, it was definitely scary telling my mom, because I think my mom like really wanted me to go to Queens, and she's like biased. She's so biased. Like she loves Queens to the core. She's like, when you think of like a girl that goes to Queens, my mom and my sister are like the epitome of that. I'm not gonna like stereotype, but I'm stereotyping, if you know what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
and like I definitely could have gone to Queens. I could have finished the degree, gone to teachers college, become an educator, blah blah blah. But like I felt like that wasn't pushing enough of like what I really wanted to be doing. Like I felt like that was more of like a career job with like good benefits where I could raise a family type of thing. But like that just sounded so boring to me. Like I just didn't think there was any sort of challenge in that. So I think my family's always been very supportive of me, and my mom was happy that I made the decision I made now. But I think at the time she was definitely more leaning towards me going to Queens. So, but it's definitely my first choice. I'll tell you that for free.
And then
I knew from grade 10.
that guy who first told you about the program too, was he a year older than you, I guess? Is he still in the program?
Yeah, he's actually 3 years older. So he's my sister's age, but we played hockey all together growing up because there wasn't enough kids to make up a team. So he's a 97 baby. So I'm pretty sure he was in the second year of Ryerson. There's also a girl from my hometown named Sarah Jenkins, who was in the first year of Ryerson Sport Media.
I've seen her on Twitter.
Yes, and then there's another kid from my hometown named Troy Langstaff, who's in the year ahead of us. So I think there's four. Yeah, there's 4 kids from Port Hope, Coburg area, the Northumberland County, that have all gone to sport media, and yeah, and like, you know, like all of them, like we're all intertwined. All of our stories overlap. Like Troy's dad was my hockey coach for rep hockey. Sarah Jenkins played hockey with my sister. Connor Dobus I like grew up with, and his dad like was a school teacher as well, and his mom. So very small town, very small community. Like we all kind of like help each other out, and you know, it's kind of interesting that we all kind of made it through.
Yeah, Coburg's developing some pretty good talent in sport media, and obviously you have a good person to look up to, and CJ, Chris Johnson.
Yes, he's also from Coburg.
Yes, he is. So how is that sort of influence? How has that influenced you, I guess, having that some person you can look up to from your sort of area that's been successful in the industry?
That's a good question. Chris Johnson, I found out about through my dad. I remember he used to tell me the story all the time. Once I kind of like opened up to my parents about like me going into sport media. About this guy, Chris Johnson. And my dad told me, I don't know if it's true, but he said that Chris Johnson used to go to the doors of like TSN or something like that and like constantly ask him for like some sort of like opportunity or a job at their workspace. And eventually they end up giving an opportunity. He eventually became like a full-time kind of like worker and personality in the industry. But you know, it's definitely inspiring to have that coming out of like a local community like as small as Coburg and Port Hope. You know, like we rarely have a lot of those success stories, but I feel like it's happening more often now. Even like just like athletes coming out of this area, like mostly just like hockey players. We had like Shane O'Brien. I know that what's his name from the Carolina Hurricanes? He won the Stanley Cup back.
Justin Williams. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes, that's the first time I touched the Stanley Cup. And you know, we also have some like other talents coming out of like Coburg and Port Hope. Like there's a band called Cleopatra, and like they're getting radio play and stuff like that, and they're doing tours in Europe. So you know, like it's inspiring to see that like it's possible, because like if I remember when I was like a kid in grade 8, I had to make a decision whether I was going to go to school at the local Port Hope High School, which only had 300 kids, or the loophole was you could go to Catholic school in Coburg, and that was the only way you could get out of Port Hope was by going the Catholic route, because that's the only way to get busing. So I had to switch from the public school stream to the Catholic school stream just to get a better opportunity, because most of the kids that came out of Port Hope usually went into trades. Those like were, you know, your mechanics, construction, that sort of thing. So most of those kids would go on to college to do apprenticeship program. So, and I knew that university was something that I wanted to do. So that was like a conscientious decision I made at 13, that I wanted to go to a different high school to make it to university. So yeah.
So how was that application process like then, applying to sport media? You obviously had to do some essay writing and then the interview and stuff. Was it a stressful time having to get everything done to apply?
I knew it was coming because I had talked with Troy and Connor, so like I kind of knew how the application process went. I don't know if you guys remember, but you had to enable this thing on your laptop to get notifications from Ryerson. Do you guys remember that?
No.
Is it something to do with Safari? Like,
Yeah, you had to change some aspect of your browser so that you could actually receive the
Yeah.
email notifications from them. I don't know if you remember
I
that.
think on Google Chrome it worked, but it just didn't work on Safari. And I still
Yeah.
think something to do with Rams does not work on Safari still. You have to have Google
Yeah.
Chrome. Yeah.
I think it's permanently changed on my laptop for now, but like back then I didn't know about that, and I was stressing because I was like, man, like I got all this in, and like I've been following all the protocol. Like I got the resume done, I got the essays done, and like I've always been like a good writer. I always had great ideas. It's just like I've always struggled with like sentence structure and grammar because I write how I talk. So it's very fast, and like I don't really go back to proofread my work because like I can get complacent and like lazy sometimes. So that was like the first time I really like put in the effort to make sure that like what I was writing sounded fluid and cohesive. And then I was expecting to get a response, but I just wasn't getting the response. So like I reached out to Connor and I was like, hey man, like I'm just not hearing back from Ryerson. Like I'm wondering if like I'm missing something. He's like, no man, like this happened to me too. He said that for his application process, he got accepted and didn't find out until the day he was scheduled for his interview. They called him and said, hey man, you never responded to us, are you still coming for the interview? He's like, I had no idea you guys accepted me. And he's like, then they said to him like, if you can come for the interview today, like come. And then Connor was like luckily in Toronto that day and just like popped over, did his interview and got in the program.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, no, like and the same thing kind of happened for me because like I remember when I did my application process, I checked because Connor told me to check. I ended up fixing the Safari browser. I got the notifications I needed to get, and I think it was an Eventbrite space thing. Eventbrite, I think they used for the interview process where you could pick the slot you wanted, right?
Yeah.
And I was going on a Europe trip with my school, and we were going to Europe from the beginning of March break to the end. I think it was like a 14-day trip, and the Eventbrite popped up, and I saw all the days that you could do your interviews for, and I realized I did like I realized like every single day there was an interview, I was in Europe. So I was like, I don't even have an opportunity to interview. Like there's no space except for the first day. I realized the first day of the interviews was the only day I could go because my flight left at 12 o'clock, but there was an interview slot from like 8 to 11. So I picked the first day at 8 a.m. I was luckily like the first person to check that day because like every day I would go to school and I would check the notifications list. And I picked 8 a.m. on the first day. And I went in and I did the interview. I went back home. I showered. I changed. My dad put me on the flight, and I was in Germany that night. So that was like the wildest Monday I ever had in high school.
That's
So
insane.
you interviewed the first day, which would have been, I guess, the Friday before March break started, correct?
I think so. Yeah, I know it was the first day, the first interview slot, because like there was no other time I could go. And I remember walking in, and I was really nervous before I got in the RCC, but once I got in, I kind of saw everybody around me and they all looked like just as nervous as me. I just started talking to people and it kind of calmed me down. And I don't know if you guys remember, but like in the RCC, you kind of sat in front of the journalism kind of area, and there was a room where you would go in the first part of the interview process. You had to do like the paragraph writing thing. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
What was
Yep.
the question? Was like your favorite documentary in recent memory, and then what are some things you took away from it? I think you guys remember that.
I didn't get that question,
Maybe we all
but
got
yes, that
different
was one of the
questions.
questions.
Okay,
Yeah.
wait. So I had my mine was the favorite documentary or whatever. So like I they talked with like some guys beforehand, calmed down, went in, did the question, and the question was the documentary, and I responded because I'd recently watched the Michigan State's Fab Five with like Jalen Rose, Chris Webber, and then so I did that one, and then I left. And then I was waiting for my interview, and I got my interview with Nicole Forrester, who you guys know. I think she went to Michigan, didn't she?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, she did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she was.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I didn't realize that I had wrote the perfect answer for my interviewee. So she was ecstatic that like I had talked about like the guys that she had kind of gone to school with. So we were like chopping up about Michigan. She told me how she was like doing keg stands with Tom Brady. And then I just felt like the interview went really well. And I left feeling like I for sure was like a shoe-in for the program. Like I left that day like knowing I think like I got in. And then I think the day I got accepted, like I was just super hyped, and like I made the decision I think within like 24 hours to accept the offer. So that was kind of my. How about you guys? Like, how did you guys know right away? Like when you guys did the interview process?
Yeah, you go, Connor.
Aiden, you go first.
Okay. I mean, I wasn't too sure. Like, I had Joe Recupero for my interview, and like, yeah, we were talking it up. Like, it was a good conversation, and I obviously like I knew a lot of stuff. Like heading into the program, like I had some experience at my high school, and like I was doing productions and stuff. So I was just talking to him about that. I think like coming out of the interview, I was still obviously a bit unsure just because there's so many people that apply. It's no guarantee that I'm going to get in. But he did give me his card. And that was like the only thing that maybe gave me some hope. He gave me his business card. He said, I think he told me like if you haven't heard back in a couple weeks, just email me. So something like that. So
okay.
Yeah. That might have been the signal, but I was still obviously like really unsure. There's like over 1,000 people that applied, only 70 get in. Like I don't know how many people he says that to or how many people he gives his card. So yeah,
I didn't know that. I was talking to Scholar, and I didn't know like at the time how low the acceptance rate was. Like I thought
saw that. I saw your reaction to that. Yeah, I was watching that.
Yeah, I had no idea. I thought like it was just like a regular program. You just like apply. I just thought they just wanted to know more about you, but it turns out. How about you, Connor? How'd your interview go?
I thought the interview and stuff went well. I didn't have like my marks were pretty decent. Like it was, I think my average of the top 6 courses or whatever they take was like an 80 to 83%, something around there.
Nice.
So I wasn't 100% with my marks. I thought they might take people with higher marks, and I didn't have any media experience. But I talked up the fact that my grandpa used to work in the industry, not sport media specifically, but actual media. And my dad used to do some camera work in the past, but yeah, I don't know. Of course I came away feeling good because I think almost everybody does. But there was definitely some uncertainty there, but having other programs that I could fall back on, which I'm sure helped with you, getting into Queens, it put you a little bit more at ease in terms of how you felt you did coming out of it.
Yeah, I was definitely at ease because like I was like very competitive with my sister growing up, and my sister she was a stud, like she was a star. She graduated grade 12 of high school, like her top 6 classes, whatever. She had a 97 average, I think. Oh. So I was constantly comparing my sister my entire high school career, like all 4 years. Everyone's like, oh, like why can't you be more like your sister? Your sister's such an athletic star. Like she does so well in class. She doesn't get in trouble. Blah blah blah. Not like I got in trouble a lot, but like I was definitely like overinflated ego type of thing. So. And that like kind of drove me. So like when I was in grade 12, like my only goal was to finish with a higher average than my sister, and I did. I think I finished with like a 98 or something like that.
Nice
so
job, man.
Wow.
Yeah. How I treated grade 12 like it was my part-time job, because I understood that if I had gone a 95 plus average, then no matter what school I got into, it was either gonna be a full ride or it's gonna be at least a $4,000 scholarship. And do you know how long it takes as a high school student to save $4,000? Like it takes a long time. And I had this job. I've been working since I was 10. 'Cause my parents told me when I was 10 years old that like if I want to go to university, I'm gonna have to pay for it. So I worked countless jobs, and one of them when I was in grade 12, I was a secretary at the local rec center. So I was always in front of my like the computer anyway, and like I would just bring my homework and I would just do my homework every night at work. So I was a keener. Like I would like Friday, Saturday nights before we would go out and party and stuff like that, like at the pregame, I would do homework. Like I would work on my essay.
That's good, man. I actually didn't know that you were such a workhorse like that, and in high school,
no, my
you were
marks
like, really dedicated.
Yeah, my marks have always been good. Like I've maintained like honors and stuff like that throughout university. Like I try not to lose a scholarship type of thing.
I think that is one thing that came up is you were on the dean's list when I was doing the research.
You can find that?
Yeah, you can find. I didn't know about it until I was doing research on, I think it was Hunter, and his name popped up. I was like, hey, maybe I'll check. I think you were on there.
Yeah, interesting.
But yeah, you can look it up. Just look up Dean's List X year. and it should come up, and then you can just sort of go to the website and stuff.
It's never. Yeah, it was never because like I really wanted to have, like, I enjoyed having good marks, but the only reason I got them was just because like I was tired of being compared to Madison, like my sister. So that was like the big driving force. And then once I got to university, it was like who am I comparing myself to? Like what is the benchmark type of thing, right? So like that's just kind of like navigating new waters and stuff like that. So definitely like finding that identity in the program and stuff like that. But like I love our program, man, and I think a lot of like that chemistry got built not only like in the years leading up, but I remember specifically Dan Robinson's Wednesday night class, whatever, we would go and hang out at the Ram the Ryan, stuff like that. And like even just like after TV lab classes, like just amalgamating afterwards to debrief, those types of things. Like I think we generally have like a great group of people in our program. So
what have you liked about the classes so far? What's been like your favorite class? Is it like a TV lab or more of a lecture, sport media theory? What are you kind of, what's your interests?
I think like just naturally speaking, like from a sport media standpoint, like our TV lab classes I love. Like I know that like it can be very stressful for us, but it's the stress that we want. Like I would rather be stressed over a TV lab class about, you know, getting the right graphics or getting the right storyline or how you're shooting a feature and how it's going to play into the overall scheme of your production over like I'd rather have that stress over like worrying about like what kind of citations I'm going to use for like my criminology essay, you know? Yeah. So I think from like that kind of standpoint, I really do enjoy our TV lab class. I think our online Zoom delivery this year, although I was dreading it and it was a little bit paperwork heavy, I think I was listening to Connor say it, but he said that, you know, it definitely taught us a lot of skills we wouldn't otherwise have. So I'm glad that we did it. I think it makes us more well versed in the sport media kind of greater, like grand scheme of things, if you will. So yeah. And as far as like, I think like just overall learning, I feel like Curtis Mallory's sport media theory class was like the university class I was looking forward to having. Cause like coming up the Catholic stream in a small town, there's a lot of things that were neglected or dismissed in my learning process in high school. And I was excited to go to Ryerson to learn the types of things that they don't teach in high school. I think I learned a lot of that in that sport media theory class. And I feel like Nicole Forrester had a lot to offer in that second year class. I just felt bad because I feel as though that she like just mentally was in a much tougher spot at that time. But I still feel like she was a great prof as well. How about you guys though? What's your standout classes?
It's a good class.
I'm a audio guy, as we were talking about before this thing, and I was editing a Staff and Graph podcast, which all of you should go and check out because they just put up a new episode, and sure. I got a shout out. So shout out to Rachel and Mike because they're great. But I really liked audio production. I enjoyed that. Dan Berlin's sports reporting class, I really enjoyed that. Apart from the interviewing thing, that terrified me because interviewing someone like Lisa Haley, who I ended up interviewing, who is now, I think she's a head coach of some country now.
Is she really?
Because she's crazy. Sorry?
She's not at Ryerson anymore?
I think she's doing both. Oh, no, she's an assistant coach in the NWHL. That's what it is. Oh. She's doing stuff for the Toronto Six.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter.
Yeah, so interviewing someone like that when I semi-followed women's hockey sort of closely, it's intimidating. And then Aiden, us not turning the mic on for the first interview and having to I just really enjoyed it because he didn't focus specifically on the traditional sports. He did the last project on the MLS Cup, which basically just handed me a project that I loved because MLS loser here. But
right.
No, don't be saying that.
Was that like the final project? Was that like the in-class thing? Right?
That was the in-class newsroom.
Right, yeah.
That was just before the Seattle-Toronto MLS Cup game, which we won't talk about.
Yeah, if you deep dive on Kayla's Twitter, I think I did that too. I had to do like the interview portion for that game, but I had to preview the game, and I knew nothing. Like when I tell you guys I know nothing about soccer, I know nothing about soccer. Like I told you guys,
same here.
I spent all my summers at my cottage, right? So like my parents wouldn't let me play baseball or soccer, so I know nothing about the sports because like I wasn't allowed to play summer sports. So like I wish I did, but I never got to.
Then what did you play in the fall and spring?
So growing up, like I'd play like any school, like any sports are available in like elementary school type of thing, and then outside of school, like rep hockey. Once I got to high school, I played volleyball, I played football, I played basketball, I played ultimate frisbee, I played lacrosse. There wasn't like a whole lot of available sports. I remember growing up, basketball. I was kind of like the loner. Like I would go. I remember when I first started going to the local gym and playing basketball. I would be the only kid in there every single night, all year long. I'd be the only kid in the gym putting up shots. And then slowly over time, I got my friends involved. And then over time, like you would just see like the younger generations kind of coming in the gym and going and playing. So over time, like I think my generation was the first to kind of bring basketball to the forefront of available sports in our community. And then after that, it kind of grew from there. And I did throughout my 3 years of high school, I also coached in like local leagues. Like I would coach Sunday mornings. I would coach kids from 7 to 9, and then 10 to 12, and I would run their games in the morning and stuff like that. So
I gotta bring this up. Second year TV lab, I believe, and I don't know if Ethan knows where I'm going here, but there's another guy in our class that is also thinks he's very good at basketball.
Oh my god.
I want to know what's going on with that one-on-one. Kentaro Skinner versus Ethan Pogue. It was supposed to happen in second year. Did it happen? What?
I don't listen. I was expecting to have a nice, calm conversation, but if we're gonna get into it, dog, we can get into it. All right, listen. Here's the thing. I will give Kentaro Skinner his props. He is a very skilled basketball player, and he's very, very patient. We played 1-on-1 one time, and we played a little 2-on-2 after. I was not ready to play. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like he caught me on like an off day. Like I had gone and had lunch with a buddy at lunchtime, and you guys can figure how that lunch went. And then he asked me to go and play like around 7 o'clock. So, like I was not ready for that game, and he killed me. I think I scored 1 point. We played 3 games, and I scored 1 point. But I think he's probably better than me. I'm gonna be honest. But if he's the best player in the program, I'm for sure the second best player. And I think I don't want to step on toes because I know that Noah Levinson plays, and I think
he's going to say Noah is, dude. He doesn't miss.
I heard he's a really, really good shooter, but I will go as far to say that as far as the basketball oriented players in the program, I will go as far to say I'm the most athletic. I can really jump. Like I'm recently starting to like do some nicer dunks, which is good. So
okay.
Yes, I've been able to dunk. I might, and then like you won't be able to know that because like I'm 5'11" and I don't look like
you are not 5'11". Don't make me feel small.
No,
you're taller than that.
Okay, yes, you're right. 5'11". I'm 5'11" and a half. So, but my wingspan's 6'5". So it makes it very crap. Yeah. So like, listen, I'm gonna get angry for a second. So my dad's dad, my grandpa, my dad's biological father, he was 6'4", and then my dad thought, you know what? I'm not gonna take his height, but I'll take his wingspan. So my dad decided to be 5'11" with a 6'5" wingspan, and then he just passed that down to me. So I could have been tall, but my dad decided not to pass that down. So
I mean, yeah, no, I'm still pretty tall.
Yeah, I'm not upset by 5'11", but I do have a nasty wingspan, which definitely makes it very difficult for me to shoot the basketball. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I don't have the prettiest form, but I can shoot it a little bit. Like I can shoot enough. You have to guard me deep.
Wow. Okay. We have to cycle back a little bit because I want to get to answers. First of all, Aiden, we never heard what your favorite course was.
Yeah, true.
Oh my god.
Second of all, if I say the name Carla DiFilippo, does that ring a bell with you, Ethan?
DiFilippo. I'm gonna say no.
No? Okay. She was one of my teachers in high school, and she's the head coach of the Canadian women's ultimate frisbee team. And you mentioned ultimate frisbee. I figured I'd bring that up. Did you play competitively, or was that just enjoyment out at recess if you had that in high school? I went to private school, so I don't know. They gave us breaks, but we weren't allowed to leave the building.
Whoa, okay. I'd like to cycle back to that in a second, but as far as ultimate frisbee goes, I played a little bit in middle school. I tried out for the school team and made it, and just because like normally like if you're just like an athletic person, like if you try out for like one of the teams that don't necessarily have like full-time players, they'll just take athletic kids. So like I just happened to make the team and I ended up being pretty good at it. Mostly just because I had like long arms and I could jump. And then when I got to high school, it was a spring sport, and my high school was the #1 rugby team in all of Ontario, I think, for 3 years running. I think we won OBSA back to back, but I didn't play rugby. I was too skinny, and I was aware of that. Even though the coach wanted me to come out and play, I was aware of the fact that I was not good at that sport. I didn't really love the game because I didn't understand it. And I didn't love the idea of like wearing short shorts and getting tackled below the waist. I didn't quite love the premise of it.
Okay, you make it sound terrible. It's a great sport. Did you play 15? Did they play 15s or 7s or 13s?
I'm pretty sure they played 13s. I'm gonna say
13. Really?
I don't know, man. Don't quote me on that. I can text somebody. They can tell me. I don't think it's 13s. Then whatever's like most common. Honestly, 15s. Like I don't know. I think it's probably 15s. I think you're right. It's probably 15s. I'm incorrect on 13s. But I didn't play rugby, so the only other option was either track and field or ultimate frisbee. And I didn't really want to put in the work for track and field, so I just played ultimate frisbee, and it was a good time. And as far as ultimate frisbee goes, like I never like got super into the sport. But I know that there is like a big culture around it in Ontario. I know there's like some very good teams out there. I do have a childhood best friend of mine who went on to do some big things in ultimate frisbee in Canada. So I'm aware that it does have a very big role as far as sports go in the area.
Interesting. Okay, Aiden, what's your favorite course at Ryerson?
Jeez, I don't know. I was gonna say, well, obviously like TV Lab is a great course, and like I feel like that's the generic answer. Like who doesn't love the TV Lab? And even for like the last project, just doing graphics is something that I didn't really know I was that passionate for until I worked with Zach and I told him like I want to do graphics, and he gave me the chance to do it, and they turned out pretty good. But also relating to graphics, there was a sports graphics course that I took in second year, and I forget who was. I think it was with our fill-in fill-in program leader, whoever replaced Joe for that like 1 year. He was
Brock, Michael Brock.
Yeah, Michael Brock. Yeah, he was the professor for that class. So I learned a lot in that class there. I had some good classmates as well. Joseph was in my class, and like he's insane with graphics, so he taught me a lot. So I would definitely have to say the sports graphics course, and then Connor, you mentioned just sports journalism with Dan. Like that class was so interactive. Like that was a great class too. So I would say those three for me: the TV Lab, sports graphics, and journalism was really good. Yeah.
Interesting. And yes, Ethan, I went to school in Toronto. It was a bit of an exaggeration. We were allowed to go outside at breaks, but that was later in high school.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into that. So Connor, you're from is it Oakville?
Toronto.
I'm from Oakville.
So Aiden's from Oakville, and Connor, you're from like Toronto.
Yeah, like North.
So like
Toronto.
what? Oh, so like North York. If you like, which kind of area? Can you gauge me?
Do you know the city?
Like a little bit. Like I'm a little familiar.
I live literally a baseball throw from Yonge Street, and Lawrence is about 10 minutes north of me.
Yonge Street's pretty long,
okay,
isn't it?
Yes, it is very long.
You're like that's more like kind of like just around Midtown, is it not? Like a little north of Midtown.
Yeah, and I live in the block between Avenue, Eglinton, Lawrence, and Yonge.
I think I used to canvas in that area. I remember one of my first jobs in Toronto. I used to do like door-to-door knocking for World Vision in first year, and like we would canvas in the nicer areas. So I think I'm a little familiar with that kind of area. But that's interesting that you grew up in Toronto. How is that? How's that different for you? Like, what's your experience like growing up in Toronto? Like, as far as like high school goes, like, did you play a lot of sports? Like, was the culture vastly different from what mine was?
I went to a private school that's very well known. Well, like very well regarded, I guess. It's not huge. It's only like 500 students. From 7 to 12. So sports teams, basically, if you tried out, you made it. I only got cut from one sport team like in my entire time playing sports, and I played sports pretty much every semester, fall and spring. We were never amazing. Like the only championship I won was rugby U14. We ended up winning the sevens division. Which are one of the teachers at my school helped set up. So we had.
So you were a rugby player growing up, eh?
I played rugby for 2 years, and then I realized I'm 5'8", At that point, I was probably smaller than that, tipping the scale at maybe 100 pounds, and playing rugby against guys who are 4 to 5 inches taller than me and 100 pounds heavier than me.
So you have my
isn't a
problem.
good idea.
Yeah, you have my problem.
So I switched into track and field and
Word.
did short distance, sprinting, like 100, and running long jump, and I did a little bit of triple jump, and shot put just as a joke. But yeah, it was definitely interesting. Like, we were at a pretty major intersection in Toronto, so traffic all the time. We didn't have a field. Our field was a park that was across the street from us.
Here's a question: Did you get your driver's license in high school?
I still don't. I have my G1. That's it.
You have your G1.
I've never sat behind the wheel of a moving car.
Really?
Oh my!
Yeah.
Really? See, that's like one of those like little things between like growing up in a city and like being in a small town. Like, I drove to school like pretty much every day. Like, I had my G when I was in grade 12.
You had your G when you were in grade 12? No way.
What?
Yeah, I think so.
No, G2.
No, I'm my G2 in grade 11, bro.
What? Okay.
Yeah, I was.
Were you held
an
back
early
here?
birthday. No. I have an early birthday. My birthday's in January, right?
Yeah, okay.
So I had my G2 in November of grade 11, and then I was driving with my G, I think, sometime in late grade 12. So yeah, I had my G by grade 12. Yeah, it worked out like that. But like, that was the type of thing, though. Like, right? Like, I took the bus for like the first couple years, but my sister went to school, so I just get a ride from somebody in Port Hope. But you know, like, driving was a big thing. Like, I had my own car by the time I was in grade 11. That was like one of the big things I paid for. So yeah, like, that's one of the things between like growing up in the city. Like, I figured, like, if you grew up at Yonge and Lawrence, that kind of area, you probably wouldn't need to drive anywhere, right?
Subway right there.
Yeah, I usually just get rides from my parents because my mom didn't work; she's stay at home.
Okay.
My dad works. He used to work at a bank, and now he's working at a company out in Oshawa. But like, yeah, I never really had to think about driving. I could just TTC or Uber. But I did get a bit of an idea. Like, I mentioned this in the past in the show. I have my grandparents and / our family have a cottage out in the Eastern Townships in Quebec. And that's in the middle of nowhere. So like, I know what it's like living without anything near you. Which is definitely valuable. Like, I'm incredibly lucky, like, period. But yeah, it is a different experience, and it's interesting hearing your different experience of growing up in a small town, Ontario, not Toronto, small town Ontario with, I guess, a few people to look up to, but like, not really the busyness of the city going around you. So what was it like moving from small town Port Hope to million people plus city Toronto?
It was shocking. Like, I truly felt like an immigrant in my own kind of country, if you get what I'm saying. Like, I didn't feel like I really fit in anywhere in Toronto, because like, even like just talking to some people when I came in, like, I had like a really thick accent from like where I came from, and I would get like ragged on a lot for the way I would say certain words. I remember, like, off the hop, one of the words that people would give me grief over was the way I said bagel. I guess it's supposed to be bagel or something like that. I to this day, like, I still struggle. Like, even like the way like I would pronounce like my EARTs, like heart and that sort of thing. Like, or like, I'm gonna go for a dart kind of thing. Like, I had to correct those types of things. Even like the little things, because like, I moved in.
Not use correct, because it's perfectly fine to speak however you want to speak.
True.
But
I got you. But
also, bagel and bagel and however you just said bagel, that is not a distinctly where you live. That is a whether or not you know how to say bagel properly.
Yeah, boy. I know, but like, I'll take that shot, bro. But like, if you go and ask anybody like in like my area to say that word, they're gonna say it the same way I do. But even like, just like, I didn't ride the TTC until like I moved there. Like, I didn't really understand how that worked. Like, I remember everyone had press up with this big jar of toonies, and I would just take the toonies. I would like have my pockets full of loose change, and I would drop toonies in everywhere I went, because like, that's the only, I didn't understand like how to get a Presto Pass and how to use it. No, I would just bring.
That's what I did for like the first month, and then I realized that you can get a Presto card.
To this day, I haven't got one yet. But
really,
like, even like, I don't know why, man. I'm just stubborn. Like, I don't know. And what else? Like, I remember I I think was like the big thing for me was like in second year, I had moved from living on campus in Pittman Hall, and I moved to living at Dundas and Sherborne, which I don't know if you guys have been in Toronto for very long. I know, Connor, you have. If you've been east of anywhere of Jarvis, the city starts to look a little different. And I remember for the first time in my life, I felt uncomfortable, kind of like living near my home, because my home was 212 Milan Street at the time. That's like where I was renting my apartment. It was like a townhouse, and I remember like there was like particular days where I'd walk home from our Wednesday class with Dan Robson, which was my latest class to date in university, and like I remember one time I got like followed home, which was like a very eerie experience. Like I remember in Port Hope, like that sort of thing doesn't happen at all. Like I can walk around my town at 4:00 in the morning. I won't walk into a single soul. Like I won't see anybody. But that was like one of the big differences in Toronto, is that like, it's the city doesn't necessarily sleep.
Right.
That is very, very true. And I think that sort of, I can't remember the exact word they use for it, but the shock of moving from small town Ontario or small town anywhere to somewhere as alive and busy as Toronto. Like I think we're one of the 3 biggest North American cities, or top 5 North American cities.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're the third. Like, I think it's New York, LA, then us. Or wait, I think it's Mexico City, New York, LA, then us.
Yeah, so like 4th biggest city in North America, and people don't really realize that. So we're in a very similar vein to New York, where our city doesn't sleep, and it's a big cultural adjustment, especially with like, I'm sure it's a lot brighter here than it is back home for you.
Yeah, I remember like one of the distinct things I remember, like when I had moved like back home for the first time for Christmas break in first year, how quiet my bedroom was. Like I didn't, because I lived on like the other facing side of Pittman Hall, so like I constantly hear sirens through the night, people throwing beer bottles and trash cans and breaking bottles and that sort of thing. So it's like always like constant noise happening from the city, and then the lights and that sort of thing. And then when I went home, like just how slow paced life is here. Like it's painfully slow, and like I miss a lot of that, which is like why I'm moving back to Toronto, I think in the first week of January now, just to get away from the small town vibe for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is potentially an interesting transition. And like, how did you find different ways to sort of keep yourself level, to sort of calm yourself in situations? I know music has been a big part of your life, like you play multiple instruments, but did that like help you at all in terms of adjusting to Toronto, or is that just sort of something that you fell back on / was more of a hobby?
Yeah, I think one thing that like playing musical instruments growing up, I think it's just like one of those things that my parents wanted me to have in my repertoire, and like I don't think back then I appreciated as much as I do now. So like they got me started on drums, and then my mom was a piano teacher, so she taught me some piano. I played saxophone in the music theater band in high school, and then when I graduated from high school, I asked my parents for an acoustic guitar because I want to learn how to play it, and it became one of those things that like I don't know if you guys like kind of get that flow feeling when you're doing something you like really are like focused in on. Like I don't know if you like shooting shots like at a basketball net, or working on your shot for like hockey, or like any sort of thing that like is almost mind numbing but like therapeutic. And that's what kind of like playing instruments became for me, because like the more you work at it, you can see the results. It's almost like kind of like mowing your grass. Like once you've done it, you can see the work you've accomplished.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if you guys ever get that kind of feeling. Do you guys play instruments at all, or?
I used to play the drums. You play guitar?
I used to, not anymore. I kind of gave up maybe around like 10 years old. Just took time off and just never got back into it. But yeah, like that was the first instrument that I played.
If we're reaching that far back, I played piano for a few years, and I played flute for a couple of years because we had to play an instrument in music.
Yeah.
And I hadn't started drums yet.
What kind of music do you guys like listen to? What's your main kind of genres? I'm always curious to know.
I almost don't want to publicly say mine.
No. I'll admit it. I'll come out.
My favorite band is Nickelback.
K-pop?
You like K-pop?
No. I was saying, what is it? K-pop?
No. My favorite band of all time is Nickelback.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's get into it right now.
Yes.
Listen,
Thank you.
If there's one band in this world that doesn't deserve the amount of hate that they get, it's Nickelback. Their music is not that bad.
No, it's good.
I honestly
don't
haven't
get it.
listened to that much. Burn It to the Ground is like the ultimate
Banger.
hockey pump up song.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Dude,
good song.
their Saturday Night is Saturday Night's
yeah.
Alright for Fighting.
That's very
It's
good.
better than the Elton John version.
Yeah, that's the best
Listen,
hockey
I'll
night
say
in
it.
Canada intro. Yeah, for sure.
Listen, here's the thing about being like a musician, right? Like, you go into the recording studio and you try to make something that sounds nice, all right? Like, none of these musicians are going into the studio trying to make something that's going to be super annoying and repetitive and like make you want to pry your ears off. I understand the appeal and the demographic for Nickelback. Do I have their CD in my car? No. Do I listen to their music frequently? No. But I get that their music is still very good and they don't deserve the amount of ragging that they get from the public. Like, their music's actually not that bad.
They've made
Why do
some
you think-
absolute bangers.
Why do you
They
think
have.
they get the hate from the public?
Listen, I'll tell you why right now. It's because their music is very much so exported on the radio side of things. So like if you look at like a lot of their biggest hits, those hits don't translate into album listens. If you think of someone like like the Glorious Sons, for instance, if we're gonna keep it Canadian, if you listen to the Glorious Sons, a lot of their radio singles are intriguing enough for you to go listen to the rest of the album. I don't know if you guys remember the song "Sawing Off Shotgun." I don't know if you guys listen to Glorious Sons at all, but they have the type of radio singles that make you interested in listening to the rest of the album. Whereas Nickelback is very much so commercial success, and they get ragged on for that. It's kind of the same way that like Drake and Justin Bieber catch flack for more so living on the charts, living in radio, but unfortunately those two guys also like actually have decent album music. How I feel about Nickelback.
Right.
Wow.
If you get what I'm saying.
I feel appreciated. This is amazing.
I hope you feel
I'm
validated.
sure I won't be when I say the next artist because my favorite rapper is Macklemore.
All right.
And, yeah.
Okay.
Is that a real rapper?
Listen. Here's what I'll say about Macklemore. Macklemore in 2013 went on one of the craziest single year runs I've ever seen someone do, and I understand.
Nuts.
I understand why Macklemore got the amount of attention and praise he did. I will attest some of that success to his caucasity, and I think that is important to measure. But his music was not horrible, and Ryan Lewis is a decent producer. But the thing is that ruffled my feathers. If you go back and you look at the acknowledgments that were done in 2013 for the Grammys, I think Macklemore and Ryan Lewis's "The Heist" was up against Drake's "Nothing Was the Same," the Magna Carta by Jay-Z, Yeezus by Kanye West, and "Good Kid, Mad City" by Kendrick Lamar. And they all lost to Macklemore and Ryan Lewis's "The Heist." And I think that left a bad taste in people's mouths for Macklemore's music. Not saying that it's bad, it's just that it was never transcended past the year of 2013. So that's my take on that. I don't think he's a bad musician. I just don't think that he has a lasting legacy as those other artists would.
Yeah, for sure.
You need a music podcast.
I do have one. If you guys want to plug it, it's called United Wasteman. You can go check that out.
We're going to
Sounds
talk
pretty
about
loud.
that in a second.
Yeah.
Oh God.
But other artists I like, AJR, you probably haven't heard of them.
No.
They're like poppy sort of thing. Classified, if you remember
Okay.
his song "Oh Canada" from back in the day. I like some of his stuff. Yeah,
Oh, I
he's that
remember
guy.
him.
Yeah.
I like that guy. I like that song. Do you guys remember the I remember it was a big YouTube song that came out as "Out for a Rip." I don't know if you guys
Yep.
recall that. That
I
was a
recognize it.
banger, and it's still on my iPhone to this day. I have it queued up in a playlist at all times. It's one of, I know every single word, and I will scream it in the car, like no remorse. What about you, Aiden? What's your top listeners? Like if you were to do a little
I
off
would-
the dome Spotify
We do like
unwrapped.
a Spotify Wrapped 2020. I don't know. Like I'm not the biggest music fan, but like I'll just hop on like whatever's kind of trending. I would say. So like I don't know. In the summer, I would listen to a lot of like Juice World, hip hop,
Yeah.
R&B. Right now, like even like I would listen to a bunch of like throwback songs too. Like when like Eenie Meenie. Justin Bieber and Sean Kingston when that went off on TikTok. I was just playing that all the time.
I
Like
expect that.
I would definitely just say hip hop and R&B mostly. But
Okay.
like pop in general is good for me. So, what about you, Ethan? You
respect
seem
that.
like you like a lot of genres.
I listen to everything. I was very blessed to be like kind of raised in like a musically acclimated family. My mom is very much so a musical person, and she was actually a music teacher growing and like in her profession. So definitely like influence from her as far as like musicians go, like Van Morrison, CCR, Bruce Springsteen, Elvis Presley, like Barry White, like just a lot of those guys that like you wouldn't otherwise listen to unless your parents put you onto. And then as far as like things like I listen to, like definitely rap and hip hop is what I listen to the most, and then probably like R&B second. I'm a big fan of like classic rock and rock in general. But I still like go back and listen to the throwbacks. Like I still listen to like Beautiful Girls by Sean Kingston, like you said, Aiden. Like I'll go back.
Oh, yeah.
There's like a specific bag between like 2006 and 2009 of music that I can't necessarily explain why it hits so different. Like Jason Derulo is in there. I know that Sexy Chick by David Guetta, I think, is in there. I think there's like Evacuate the Dance Floor by Cascada. Like shout out all those songs. Like there is a specific bag in that era.
Party
that
rock
forever.
anthem. Party rock.
Yes.
Anthem.
LMFAO is one of the great. Yeah, again. So yeah, I mean, I listen to anything. I don't really hate on the only type of music. Like, and again, like I listen to country. I'll admit it. Like I don't love to admit it, but I will. I love country music. It's my.
I don't get why people are so offended by people who listen to country.
It's my guilty
Some
pleasure.
country is actually good.
It is, and like here's the thing: there's two different bags of country. For me, there's country that sounds good, which is like your Chris Stapletons of the world that are vocally extremely sound, do fusions of R&B, soul, and blues, and then you have your I'm drinking cold beer in the summertime country music, which is the kind of country music that only sounds good when the sun is out. If you get what I'm saying.
That's a good
like
point.
the Blake Sheltons of the world.
Yes, Blake Shelton, Luke Bryan, the list goes on. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah, maintain one of the best country songs is "Wagon Wheels" by Darius Rucker.
Shout out Darius Rucker. He's Hootie and the Blowfish is another great band too. So shout out them.
True. Yeah, it's very interesting hearing people's different takes on music. Like I also love Joyner Lucas. Like I'm all over the place in terms of who I like. Joyner Lucas.
He's a nice storyteller. I'm not gonna lie. Like his lyricism is very solid. I want to say his production is like his production doesn't match the energy he brings for as far as lyricism goes. Like I wish he had a better production team behind him. I think his mixing is still solid, but he's a very good artist. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, like I think with some people it's you listen to it just for the sound. In my case, I listen for the words and what's being said.
Yeah.
And that's why I have such a terrible taste in music in a lot of people's opinions. But it is very interesting to hear. Like before doing this research, like I had no idea you were this into music. And
dude, 100%.
Like it's interesting hearing your perspective as somebody who I assume your mom is a music teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So having that sort of growing up, having a teacher as a parent growing up, what was that like?
Horrible.
How did that
horrible. I hated it. So my mom taught at the school I went to. So like it was like. I got ratted out on like a lot. Like you can't get away with anything. So like I had to be the goody two shoes I didn't want to be. Like I wish I could be like a bad kid and like do all the things that like the growing experiences you kind of need. Whereas like my mom expected that if she told me I shouldn't do something, then like I would listen instead of go find out for myself type of thing. So and then on top of that too, like it was also just kind of good to have an educator in the family. So like when I came home and I feel like discouraged or something like that, she was very professional in the sense of how I could deal with teachers to get what I wanted out of that relationship. So she wasn't much so like on the homework side of things. She definitely helped me out, but it was more so about social, like using my social skills to work on my confrontational skills. Because like as a kid, like I was not confrontational at all. I was very sensitive. I would cry easy. So like I definitely needed that help to kind of communicate with adults, which is like a big skill that like I found like came in handy later in life. And like on top of it too, like she was very smart in putting me in like public speaking contests and stuff like that. I remember when I was in like, I think I was in grade 5, I like made it to regionals, I think, for something like that, and like I won like $500 for public speaking and that sort of thing. So all those like little things like were important. So
yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, those grade
we
6,
have been talking
grade 9 speaking competitions.
I'd always shout out the poor kid, and it would be so awkward in like the assemblies and stuff.
I remember one person, I think it was grade 8, she was giving her speech and she started crying. Like her speech was so emotional that it just made her tear up. And then all the other candidates like went up on stage to like support her. And like you're wondering if like, is this staged? Like this doesn't seem real. But she ended up winning. It worked. I don't know if it was staged or if it was really just that heartfelt. But
are you questioning it because she won and you didn't, or were you not competing?
No, I wasn't competing. I was in the audience.
All right, cool. All right, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting, like hearing your perspective. Like my backup plan, people don't really know this, it was teaching. Like I'd applied to some teaching programs. I did a co-op in grade 11 at my my elementary school.
Nice.
And I want to ask you before we touch on some of the stuff you've done outside of Ryerson, because we've been talking about like just having a conversation for an hour and 15 minutes, and we just haven't realized it.
My bad.
No, dude, this is great. But what sort of teaching did you want to do? Were you a math teacher? Were you a science teacher? Were you a gym teacher? What sort of tipped your fancy in terms of teaching?
That's a great question. All right, cool. So, my favorite teacher in high school, his name was Mr. Lowry, and he was he was more in like the human kind of sciences, if you will, like the geography, law, history, that type of thing. And that was like my top thing. Like I love law, I love history, I love like kind of understanding like the relationships of society and how those relationships play into a larger part of how the world kind of operates. And I very much so like kind of like continue to divulge myself in that sort of information. So if I were to become a teacher, I would love to teach kind of like law, history, and geography and that sort of thing. And I think my minor right now, which I'm trying to switch, my minor right now is criminology because I was going to go to law school after sport media, but then I realized I just don't have the time or money to do that. But I still think like in my mind, like, being an educator is still like something I could do in my future. And he like Mr. Lowry like really inspired me to not only like educate the next generation, but the way that he was able to make a free thinking classroom. He would bring these arguments to the table and he would split the class in half and then ask us to argue both sides. He wouldn't ask anyone to play the devil's advocate. No one would volunteer. He would make you do it. And it very much so like opened our eyes to understanding how media can, especially with the algorithms we have in social media and like on different platforms, can feed you what you want to hear. He forced us to look at both sides of the coin on every single circumstance, whether that be politics with Trump or human history when it came to Napoleon Bonaparte or something like that. So the humanities were definitely like a big part of like what I want to do. How about you, Connor? Because I know you said that you wanted to be an educator. What was your take?
I just wanted to be a gym teacher because I wanted to be able to play sports all the time with kids, and I thought it'd be a ton of fun.
Yeah. Like that's something you could always fall back on. You never know. Sport
You say that, but in order to become a gym teacher, you need a kinesiology degree.
Yes, you do.
Oh, true. That is true.
Which is a major problem because kinesiology is incredibly hard. So
yeah,
when you make fun of it. Yeah, but when you make fun of your gym teacher for being stupid, no, they aren't.
I'm still gonna do it.
Yeah, you're still gonna do it, but they're not stupid. Like, trust me, they have brains in their heads. Like,
yeah,
I took a grade 12 semi kinesiology class, and that was hard. Never mind university level. But I want to know: did Mr. Lowry inspire you to create the United Wasteman podcast?
No, sir. So the United Wasteman came about because I realized that I kind of enjoy doing Rams Live, but I didn't love it that much, so I need to find a way to get like my creative practice hours popping off. So I was also living with my best friend at the time, who was Ethan Shaw, who's the co-host of United Wasteman, and like we just kind of wanted to add something to the balance of our weekly, like, our day-to-day lives, add something in. And so we used to do like the United Wasteman, which started on Spirit Live Radio, and we would go on, I think the only slot available for us, because we were like a new show, was 9 a.m. on Wednesdays, so we were like a morning talk show, which we like really enjoyed. We would just go in, we'd drink some coffee and just shoot the stuff for like a minute. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this or not, so I'm not going to, but and then that eventually kind of evolved into us doing like the podcast this semester. And the reason I chose the podcast over Spirit Live Radio, because if you do Spirit Live Radio, I'm pretty sure you only get like the 50 minutes of creative practice hours for like however long you go live for. But if you do a podcast, you get to pick how many hours you worked on it. So like I would say, like if I did like one podcast, I would say I did 5 hours of work on it.
Wait, really?
So,
I did not know that.
Hold up, what?
See, you guys don't know. You guys don't know. That's I played this. I didn't play the system. I just know how the system works. So that's the reason why I chose that one. Plus, this is also just like a good opportunity for me to like kind of record the conversations that me and Shaw have, because that is like, that's my brother, and like we share like a lot of great memories together. I'm sure like down the line when we're like 45 years old or 50 years old, we can listen back and think about how stupid we were. So yeah, man.
All right, Connor, we're doing a podcast next semester.
Yeah, no, guys, do a podcast, yo.
That's very interesting. Yeah, maybe we should do that.
Maybe we can do both. you never
You guys should probably do both.
like honestly like the live show is pretty cool, just having a live audience every single time. But if we could get more hours, I wouldn't mind that at all.
That's what
I'm interested. Did you find that it was a different dynamic doing it live than doing recorded podcasts?
Yeah, we got lazy with the podcast. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. When we did the Spirit Live, like we came prepared. Like we'd spend the day before brainstorming topics we want to talk about. Sometimes what we do for like the live radio show, I would go into one room, into my room. He would go into his room, and then we would find topics that we liked, and then we wouldn't tell each other what topics we had, and then we would go into Spirit Live, and then we would educate each other. We would like kind of mansplain to each other and stuff, and then we would go off the dome and have conversations about it. But when it came to podcasting this year, it was a little bit tougher because it took him a minute to find like a microphone. So he stole his brother's Yeti, and then we eventually tried to figure out how to get that to work. And then so like this year was more so like we wouldn't prepare at all. Like I would just say like, hey man, like I have free time right now. Can you hop on the Zoom call? And then we would just hop on the Zoom call. We would have like a 45-minute conversation. I would put some intro and outro music on it, and then we'd call it a day. And then I would say like, oh, there's 5 hours of work right there for you. And then
Jeez.
I would get that.
Hopefully nobody at Ryerson or Spirit Live listens to this.
I said on a podcast that I posted on the first episode, the first thing I said is like, we're doing a podcast because I get more creative practice hours. They know it. They listen. They know what's going on.
That's the whole basis of the show.
The whole basis of the show is so I can graduate. All right. Because like I mean, God, kid, we like what options do we have this year for creative practice hours? We really don't. Like I mean, we could kind of do like the Rams rewind or then some other options. But as far as like getting creative practice hours, the main place to go to is Spirit Live, as you guys know.
Yeah,
it's true. It's very true. Yeah, and we'll definitely consider it. I do find though, like when we're doing it on Spirit Live, like the one show we did this year, Aiden, without a guest, like something else happens. Like I just become a different person, I find. I don't know if Ethan, you find the same thing, or Aiden. Like it just, you start being almost more efficient.
Wait, sorry, when it's not live or when it's live?
When it is live. Like here it's just much more of a conversation, whereas like when we're talking on Spirit Live, it's, especially when we're just doing the sports, like I feel like somebody else. It's weird.
It might be just because like we also have that time limit to worry about. Like we kind of know what the topics are going to be. Like we have 10 minutes to talk about this, 5 minutes to talk about this, and then there's like 3 minutes left in the show, and then we're cramming it with this right now. We've been going for what, over an hour, and we still haven't gotten to the sports talk. So it's just
that's true. I think time crunch definitely plays a factor into that. But I remember I had a conversation with Hunter about this one time. But I call it the interview voice. But a lot of people would like, you can say it's like your live to air voice too. How you kind of switch up your mannerisms and your dialect when you get live on air, and that can kind of change your perception of yourself too when you're speaking and how you speak. So like for me, like I'm not very good at switching to that interview voice. I can when I really need to, but I prefer not to. It just kind of feels like inauthentic sometimes. So but yeah, I can definitely get that vibe where like sometimes you don't feel like it's you in that moment, because like when I do TV lab and I'm like on air, that happens to me. Like I switch my cadence, I switch my voice, I switch how I kind of speak, and I can feel that.
And
I think isn't the saying like you're supposed to give 10% more than what you normally give, something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. And we're saying all this as if this is a podcast and it's gonna be going up another day, but also we're live right now on YouTube. Like we got two listeners, so yeah.
Well, one of those is me, so I'll be.
Oh really? Oh
yes.
I
do have it open.
Okay.
Because I think that this podcast is great, and we should promo what is happening this weekend, shouldn't we?
Should we do it right now, or should we just do it after the show?
I think we will talk about how we're going to promo it, but we will say keep an eye on our Instagram, first of all, if you are listening to this or listening to this later, because we'll be asking for some of your help potentially, and for an announcement about an episode coming up shortly. But we will continue on. We'll finish up this conversation on Ethan because we've been going for an hour and like 20 minutes plus, just talking everything in his life and our lives. And this has actually been very enjoyable. But like, I want to finish off with your website, which, be honest, you created this for social media, didn't you?
Yeah,
And
damn, you did research, bro.
it's not exactly hard when I read the about info, and it was basically the exact same thing I read. But
I'm deceased. All right, what's your question, bro?
how did you make it look so good?
Ooh, great question. Okay, so I'm a big fan of this YouTube channel called For Y'all. They're a Toronto-based YouTube channel. It's Trey and Jay Richards. They're brothers. And before each of their like episodes, they like promote Squarespace, and then they show like a little brief tutorial on how they kind of use like their platform with Squarespace. Like I kind of understood how to do it, and then I just kind of like had a vision for how I want to set it up. So like my last name's Pogue, and I like my last name like a lot. I don't know why. I'm very infatuated with it. So I thought like, why not have like Pogue's like website, and then I have like Pogue's podcast, Pogue's photography, Pogue's productions, and like I'd have like my YouTube videos, my podcast, and then any like kind of photography I did. So that's just kind of how I set it up. And I did some like YouTube research on like the easier sort of like templates to use to make it look kind of simple but clean. So that's kind of like how I ran that. What did you guys use for your websites?
I just used what he suggested.
Yeah,
Word.
just the generic stuff.
Although
I did
I
well
did-
on it. I guess I didn't put
Yeah.
too much effort in.
I think if you did it correctly, you got 100,
Yeah.
didn't you?
Yeah, just follow
Yeah.
his instructions. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did, though, before I came to Ryerson, one of the things I did to try to get in, because I talked to Adam Iafredi, who was a third-year student at the time, I think, about like what he suggested I do to try to get in. And he suggested make a blog. So I made a blog, but I will never tell anybody the name, and you could probably find it if you look up my
I think
name.
I found it before.
Yeah.
I've got one too. I'm glad you didn't find it.
I might have found it and just scrolled past it because I did this yesterday in between spending 6+ hours watching the videos for the social media Hootsuite certification.
Jeez. Man, I wish I had plugged you like the information earlier. I could have saved you 6 hours, bro.
I have spent 6 hours the last 2 nights doing that, and I spent a bunch of hours last week doing the platform certification. But that is my own fault because I literally write down every single thing the person
I
says.
feel it for you, bro.
So I've figured out a good system. I figured it out last night, finally. Listened to it on 0.5% volume, speed volume, no captions, so I can't read them, and then just type what they say. And for some reason, it works better than being able to read it.
Nice.
But who cares about that? More importantly, your website. You got some. It looks real clean. Like I got to be honest, it looks really clean.
I appreciate that.
What did you use for it? Did you use Squarespace?
Yeah, I use Squarespace. I paid for. I knew I wanted to start a website just because, like, I knew that this past semester I've been working like 2 jobs just to help pay for the apartment I'm gonna be moving into next semester. And next semester is gonna be like me like taking like a good chunk of time to focus on like building my portfolio. So like I have some productions and some podcast ideas I'm gonna be rolling out, and that's where I'm gonna be putting them. So I just want to be able to like organize all the content and then where the future content's gonna go. So I use Squarespace. I paid for like a .net for a year, and I wanted to get the .ca, but it was too expensive, so I went for the .net.
Nice.
And then I just kind of set it up like the homepage just to link you to like each kind of subsection. The photography, I think I have like my portrait photography, my landscapes, and then photos with me in it. And then I think my podcast one, I have like 2 episodes of United Wasteman, and then my productions, I have like the Beer League Bender, and then my travel video, and then the About Me page for passing RTA 902. And that was about it, man. Like it wasn't anything too special, but I tried a little bit. It was some solid effort.
And you just mentioned your YouTube channel. You have 2 videos on there, 16 subscribers. A surfing video, I think, or like a summer video of you down in. You went to BC.
I went a lot more than that. If you get the opportunity to look at that video, man, I killed that video. I think I have like all the productions I've done. That's one of my favorite ones. But yeah, I went out west in the summer just because I was like cooped up in my house, and me and my best friend were just kind of looking to get out and see the rest of Canada because we understood that we couldn't go to the States. We couldn't do much traveling, so we thought, why not travel domestically? And I had never been to a different province than Ontario and a little bit of Quebec. So I was like, why not go see the West Coast? So we flew to Edmonton. We drove from Edmonton to Vancouver in one day. We spent 4 days in Vancouver traveling around. We saw like everything that Vancouver has to offer. Then we took a ferry to the island. We went to Victoria. We did some climbing in a local area with the national, like some guys on the national rugby team from Canada that I went to high school with. Then we went to Tofino. We went surfing at Tofino for 2 days. We went back across the ferry. We drove to Kamloops, spent the night there. Then we went to Banff. We did climbing and we did mountain climbing, whatever, in Yoho, Banff, like hiking, whatever. Spent the night in Calgary. Back to Banff for 2 nights of camping. Up to what's the other one called? It's Banff and why am I blanking?
Jasper.
Jasper, thank you. Went to Jasper, and then back to Edmonton for one more night, and then we went back home. So yeah, we just did like a big circle. It was incredible.
That is quite the trip. Wow.
Yeah, and it was like the first trip that got organized by myself. Like I kind of told like that one to my parents like last minute as well. Like I had already had it ready to go, and then they were like, "Well, I guess we can't say no."
Hey, Mom, Dad, I'm going on a trip in the middle of a pandemic. Traveling all over Canada. You okay with that? Cool. Bye.
They didn't love that. They hugged it. And it worked out okay. I mean, there wasn't that many cases at the time. I think like Ontario was sitting at like 30 cases at the time, so we were chilling.
When did you go? Were you going back in February?
we went in August, I think. I think August is when we were at our lowest.
Okay, we had a few more than 3 cases, but yeah.
I said 30. My bad.
Yeah, a few more than 30 cases.
I swear, yeah, I think like per day, like I think we were at like 30.
Maybe per day, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Either way, like that part of the country is unbelievably beautiful.
I had no idea.
You had no idea?
Yeah, it's nice.
I didn't know.
I went to BC a couple summers ago. It's really, really nice. Definitely go.
Yeah, BC, Jasper, Banff, unbelievable. I got family out in Comox, BC, which is on the island. So I've gone out there a couple times, and it's unbelievable.
It is.
I recommend the East Coast as well, especially like Eastern Quebec and the Maritimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
really nice.
My girl's from Moncton. She wants to get me out there, so I'll have to do that.
Oh yeah, you got to do that. Like the what? I think it's the Appalachians. No, what is the mountain range that extends into Quebec? Oh, I can't remember. I should know this, but unbelievable there. If you're into skiing, there's some good skiing there.
I went to Tremblant, I think, like twice.
Okay, you've been to Tremblant?
Yeah.
I didn't know that Tremblant is bigger than Whistler. Did you know that?
No, really?
Tremblant's a bigger mountain. Tremblant's a bigger mountain than Whistler. I had no idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I had no idea.
I went to Whistler the 2 summers ago as well.
Nice.
In the summer?
Yeah, in the summer. Did like the gondola up there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no skiing. No skiing.
I was going to say, you went to Whistler in the summer to ski? Hold up.
No, not to ski. No. I guess could they do that? Fake snow in the summer?
Yeah, but like you'd have to keep it cold, which is the issue.
Yeah. No, it was
nice.
like
I have to keep an entire mountain cold.
There's another mountain up there. You can do like this thing called the Grouse Grind. I think it's I saw Morgan Riley and Alex Kerfoot talking about that a couple days ago. It's like a really long hike up this mountain, and it's so hard to do. I think we made it like halfway and then we turned back. But I think Morgan Riley said he could do like up and down in 45 minutes.
Oh my god!
So, wow.
Yeah, he's pretty insane.
Well, they're also professional athletes who get paid millions of dollars to do what they do.
Oh, I mean, you could say that, but do you think James Harden can pull that off? I don't know.
That's a very good transition to him and basketball.
That is very good.
What is happening to James Harden?
All right.
He's fat.
Yeah. Was that real? Was that actually real? I thought that was photoshopped. That's a real photo?
No. Listen, yes, that was a real photo of him. That was not doctored. Listen, here's the thing. James Harden is in that kind of category of NBA players that have that sort of just over the edge of, and just underneath Tubby, and just over the edge of not looking athletic, of Paul Pierce, Draymond Green, and James Harden. And for some reason, they just look top heavy. And I don't think it's his fault. Like, I think that's just the way he's built. But he does look out of shape. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Do you think that has to do with the trade rumors?
Oh yeah, 100%. I don't think he's happy at all. Like, we all know he wants out. Like, we all know that James Harden has never been told no.
Yeah.
No one has ever said no to James Harden his entire career outside of Oklahoma City. Like, it's the moment he stepped into Houston, he was the man.
Yeah.
You have to understand, like he's equally as toxic as a Kyrie Irving, a Kevin Durant, or like those types of players. But he gets away with it because he's the bona fide star of Houston. Like he is Mr. H Town, right? So he's allowed to get away with it until now.
Yeah, I think I saw today, like, there was a report that came out that he's made, like, all the final decisions on coach firings, GM firings, trades.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's been the guy ever since he got there. So
they just never had the makeup to be successful in the Western Conference. They were too busy trying to copycat the styles of other teams, while influencing like the Mike D'Antoni 14 seconds on the shot clock, get the shot up type of thing. And I think like at their peak, James Harden was playing point guard, and he was averaging like almost 30 points a game and like 10 plus assists and that sort of thing. And they made it to like the Western Conference Finals, I think, and then Chris Paul got hurt and they never made it to the finals.
It's a very interesting right now, Houston, in terms of like the fact that they just traded Russell Westbrook for John Wall in the 2021 first. Wall coming off a torn Achilles and I believe a torn ACL, correct?
Yes, that is correct. It's interesting because John Wall and Russell Westbrook are essentially the same player. It's just I think that they thought that John Wall would have a better relationship with James Harden, and like I don't think they understand that James Harden just simply doesn't want to be in Houston anymore. I think the best thing that the Rockets can do is trade James Harden to
the Toronto Raptors.
No. We don't want the toxicity, bro. We're good. I'm happy with our squad. They should change him to the Atlanta Hawks. I think that's the only place he's gonna be happy, bro.
Yeah, him and Trey Young, that'd be good.
No, I'm not saying because of the team. I'm just saying because of the scene.
More low key.
I
don't think Aiden's caught up on the basketball stuff.
That's okay.
Or shall I say, off the court basketball stuff. Let's just say he likes frequenting Lou Williams' favorite destination in Atlanta.
Yeah, like I don't know if you guys remember, but
okay.
James Harden had his jersey retired in a Houston gentleman's club at one point, if you guys recall.
I did not recall that, but
yes, he was he's a Hall of Famer at one of the Houston gentlemen's clubs, and they retired his jersey and they did a big celebration for him one night. So, yes, I don't think that we'll land James Harden until we exchange our loonies for dollar bills. But I don't know. It's possible.
We had him at one point, although I think they're going out of circulation now. So
yeah,
tough there, but. I'm surprised you said Atlanta instead of somewhere like Brooklyn.
See, and me and Skylar talked about a bit about this, but the thing with Brooklyn is that I think Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, as one of the two most insecure professional athletes I've ever seen in my life, they specifically, I think, kind of teamed up in Brooklyn to start a new movement of like athletes putting themselves first, especially before the narratives of media. I think LeBron kind of started the paving that way with Uninterrupted, that whole brand. I think Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are trying to take in their own direction. I just don't think James Harden's going to mesh into that system, and I don't think they even want him there. And you have to understand too, if you get a James Harden, you have to give up pieces, and I don't think James Harden is worth giving up a Karis LeVert, a Spencer Dinwiddie, a Jared Allen, a DeAndre Jordan. So I just don't think it's feasible. I don't think the Raptors really want to give up any of their key pieces either. Like I love our squad's very, very tight knit. We have great chemistry. We're one of the most bought-in teams in the NBA. I think the most trust I've ever seen between players and coach. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
So you don't think he'll go to Brooklyn?
No.
Do you think Philadelphia could be an option?
No, I don't think he's going anywhere. I'm going to be straight up with you. I think Houston's going to tell him to suck it up, hit the treadmill, and you're going to make it work. Like, do you understand? Like, I think Houston's had enough of James Harden being the shot caller, and they're ready to tell James Harden that, like, hey, like, we're paying you almost, I think what's his contract, like 25, 30 million a year. Like, they're just going to tell him, like, hey, man, like, we're paying you a ton of money. It's time for you to, like, fit in, not fit out. So, I don't know. Like, we'll have to see what happens. I don't see him being traded. Like, he has no, like, valuable trade to him in which Houston's going to win a deal. Like, there's no deal trading James Harden where they come out on top. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think it's just gotten to the point now where, like, Houston kind of feels like they need to trade him, even though they're not going to get the value back? They just have to get him out of town?
I don't know if you guys remember, and I remember as, like, listening to this interview, and I think it was in 2003 or 2004, and Kobe had requested a trade out of Los Angeles, and we can all remember how that turned out. And I don't think that James Harden is going to get the same. I think he's going to get the same treatment. I think that he's just going to go down as him asking for the trade and not getting one. I don't think it's a situation like Dwight Howard when he was with the Magic where he asked for the trade. They had that awkward All-Star game and they eventually got rid of him. I don't think they're going to get rid of James Harden. I think they're going to make him stay. I think they're going to make him play with John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins. I actually think they can be a really good team. I just don't think James Harden is like mentally checked in to play NBA level basketball.
They can be a really good team if they can stay healthy.
Yes, that is true. They also have great defensive pieces, but I don't know. You tell me. Where does James Harden heart's like? Where does his heart lie? Like, what's his muse? Like, what motivates him to be the best player in the basketball court? I think, in my opinion, scoring 35 means too much to James Harden.
It's true.
Yeah, he's
like,
not team first. He's not team first. He cares about individual statistics, and like even you could see like from his interviews today, like it doesn't look like he wants to be there at all for his team. He's just more focused on himself right now, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I think he could retire without a championship and he'd just be chill with it. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's just kind of sad.
Yeah. Another player who'll probably retire without a championship is Giannis Antetokounmpo because he signed a 5-year Supermax extension with the Milwaukee Bucks. He has an opt-out in 2025, so he can escape there if he wants to. What do you think about the extension? Was it the right decision for Mr. Antetokounmpo, or do you think he should have signed somewhere else like Miami or Toronto?
Listen, I respect decision. I think loyalty is one of the few things to come by nowadays in the NBA. I think players, as they should be, are more personal interest first, which is fine. Like, as you should be. Like, it's your career. You should be able to be like the decision maker in it. But I think Giannis made the right decision as far as his personal choice to secure the bag, which $228 million over 5 years is a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah.
And not even mention, like, that's just at face value. Like, if you get into the intricacies of that contract, I'm sure there's a ton more money to be made based on, like, all NBA teams being made playoff appearances, those types of like personal accolades. And he deserves it. He works really, really hard to get to the position he is today. Do I think re-signing with Milwaukee is going to increase his chances of winning a championship? I do not think so. I think Milwaukee is not even going to be a top 3 seed this year. Wow. I just don't see it. Yeah, I just don't see it happening. I can see them being like maybe a 3 seed, but I don't think they'll be the top seed. I think Brooklyn, if
in
they
the
stay
league
healthy,
or the East.
In the East, I think in Brooklyn they stay healthy. Brooklyn, if they stay healthy, will be like a 3 or 2 seed. I think Boston will probably be a 3 or 2 seed. I think Miami will be up there. The Raptors are going to shock people this year. I don't think people understand how good the Raptors are going to be this year.
Okay.
I just don't see, because the thing is, like, if you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, they don't have a second scoring option, and they don't have that tight knit of a chemistry amongst the players as far as where is their offense outside of Giannis. And if they're not running the fast break, and especially if you watch in the playoffs, the way that teams are able to shut down Giannis and force him to be a jump shooter or a passer, he's just not successful at being either of those things if he can't get into the lane. So even if their team does finish high in the Eastern Conference standings, they're not going to make a ton of noise in the playoffs. But I don't know. What's your take?
I love the decision for him. I'm a huge Giannis fan. I love him as a person. I think he's an unbelievable person. If he wants to win, I don't know if Milwaukee's the best decision because they just traded a point guard who's pretty serviceable for a guy who is better than him, but an upcoming free agent. They tried to acquire Bogdanovic, and Bogdanovic just didn't want to sign with them. Like,
that makes me laugh.
It is hilarious, and Atlanta definitely benefited off of that. But I don't know if that will push Milwaukee over the edge, and I don't know if it'll be great for their long-term success.
Yeah, but like that's a real question. Is like, you can say that about the Raptors. Is like, what do the Raptors have implemented in their franchise that's going to make them successful over the next 5 years? And you would say,
Masai Ujiri.
Yeah, Masai Ujiri. Their developmental league is very, very strong. They're consistently able to pull late second round players, undrafted players, develop them on their G League squad, and then move them up into almost max level player contracts on the Raptors. When you can't say the same about Milwaukee, you have no idea. No. The only thing they have guaranteed for a bright future for the next 5 years is Giannis. Outside of that, what do you got? You got an aging Chris Middleton.
Dante
You got-
DiVincenzo.
Yeah, DiVincenzo, who was like nice in college and had a big championship game one time. Good for him. You also had Drew Holiday, who's what, 31, 32?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I can't really say to you like what kind of future they have to build upon this Giannis contract. Like what's the next pieces to get them to the promised land? They don't have a plan. That's the difference between Western Conference teams and Eastern Conference teams, is that bad Western Conference teams have a plan to be good in the next 5 years, and then the Eastern Conference teams that are bad or mediocre don't have a plan for the next 5 years to get better.
True.
Like, I just don't see it.
True. But also, like, just say the Bucks didn't re-sign Giannis at all. They let him go to another team. Then they're even farther away from winning a championship.
Yeah, and then at that point,
Yeah.
you sell your franchise and you open up another one in Seattle.
Basically, yeah. I don't know. I think if a team has a player that caliber, then there's always a chance that they can win. And like Giannis is still a younger guy too. He's only going to get better. Like he's not at his peak yet. And if it might even just be like a one-man show. If he can go off in a playoff run and get hot, like we've seen, teams have that one-man show, like the Raptors with Kawhi. I know they had alternate pieces around him as well, but if one guy gets hot, then he can lead you to a championship. So I think just making sure that they got him secure for a long time now, and they signed him to the extension, like that's the first step in trying to win a championship. So I think it could work out. I definitely respect him. Like, as a Raptors fan, I would just hate to see him go to a team like the Heat. That would suck.
Yeah, that would suck. And
I
don't think he would.
Yeah, and I've also seen like some people on their stories like complaining about Giannis, like how they're disappointed in him and stuff like that. But like, it could be a lot worse for the Raptor fans for sure.
You gotta understand about NBA fans; they'll just say anything if you read it. Like I don't. Yeah, you gotta take it with a grain of salt at this point with NBA fans, because like the propaganda can be insane sometimes.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this now.
Okay.
Is signing with the Bucks, or is Giannis signing with the Bucks better for the Raptors next offseason?
Next
Who else
offseason
is
for the
available?
Raptors.
Who else is available next offseason?
Next free agency is unbelievably stacked.
I would love one day for a top 5 NBA player to say, I would love to sign a contract with the Toronto Raptors, but there's a lot of key factors that like play into like making that decision. And I remember like listening to a podcast where like Lou Williams talked about playing in Toronto, like the constantly having, and this isn't applicable for this year, but like just in general, like having to constantly go through customs for every flight you take, having to open up a Canadian bank account, dealing with the taxes down there in US dollars, and then on top of that too, having to get like cell phones and shit like that. So like I understand the discouragement of athletes going to Toronto, but the thing that I'm going to say right now is that the Raptors have built such a great young core to build upon. I don't see any reason why they should blow that up or create a difficult financial cap situation to maneuver around for future years to come. I think like they're in a really comfortable position now, and they're in a position where the next 4 years at least, I think we will be a playoff contending team. I would rather have that over a big market free agent. I don't know about you guys. That's how I feel.
Then do they go after someone in the offseason? And if they do go after someone, who do they go after?
I don't really know the options. Who's up next year? I'm trying to think.
Rudy Gobert is up. Kawhi is up. LeBron, actually, no, he signed his extension. Let me look this up very quickly.
Yeah, I don't think we're getting Kawhi. I don't think he wants to be in Toronto. He already decided on that. Rudy Gobert is a very good center, but he's not a center that would fit well into the Raptors offense. I think Aaron Baines and Alex Len was an interesting pickup, not only because of like they have the 2-year contracts with the second-year player option. They also have Aaron Baines, who's also a stretch big, which is really important for their offensive skill set because they do at times play a 4-out 1-in or they play a 5-out on offense. And I think he's very like much so like Kyle Lowry on defense, where he's not afraid of being put in a highlight. Like Kyle Lowry will take the charge, Aaron Baines will take the charge. I think Aaron Baines has statistically been dunked on more than any other player in the NBA, which is I love it. The minute he signed with Toronto, I followed Aaron Baines' fan account, and I will be the first to admit it. It's fine. I love him. Happy to have him. I don't think Rudy Gobert is for us.
Here are upcoming free agents with player options: Chris Paul, Kawhi Leonard, Blake Griffin.
Ooh.
Non-player options: Mike Conley, Lowry, of course, Paul Millsap, DeMar DeRozan, Otto Porter Jr. Player option for Drew Holiday, Rudy Gobert, Andre Drummond, LaMarcus Aldridge, Victor Oladipo,
There's some good
Tim
ones.
Hardaway Jr., Dennis Schroeder, Evan Fournier, Giorgio Deng, Danny Green,
No, we're good.
Kelly Oubre Jr.
No, we can't have Kelly Oubre Jr. in Toronto, bro. We can't have that. I'll lose
How
my
about
girl.
James Johnson back in Toronto?
I like James Johnson.
How old is he?
I like James Johnson.
Oh, he's old. He's 34.
Bro, he's one of those guys that like he's so scrappy that like Father Time won't beat him because he beats up everything. I think that out of like a lot of those names that you mentioned, key pieces for me that I would think would be interesting fits with the Toronto Raptors, specifically about the Dome, is just Victor Oladipo. I've always really loved his game, and I feel like he has a type of team chemistry, like kind of character that he would mesh nicely with the pieces we already have. I think him being a bigger guard allows for someone like Fred VanVleet to slide into the point guard spot comfortably. I don't know about you guys, but what would your key pieces be from that free agent class?
Well, my hot take will be the key piece later tonight.
Isn't Oladipo
when we
like
finish? But
Isn't Oladipo known for like his injuries though? Like, hasn't he been pretty banged up in the past?
Yeah,
he had
has.
this severe injury against Toronto, but other than that, has he had many?
But like
Maybe
each
not.
kind of season, in each time that he's kind of gotten knocked down, he continues to get up and play better.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I mean,
he.
Going back to
Go ahead.
Connor's question, I guess, like, would we rather go after Giannis or go after like a couple guys, right? Like, just in terms of money, like we'd have the flexibility now to get after maybe 2, maybe 3 guys that could help us, and
Yeah.
it might make sense. It honestly probably will make sense. And even if Giannis like became a free agent next year, there's no guarantee the Raptors would get him. There's no guarantee at all. Like we would make a pitch for him, but like there's so many other teams that would be in the market to get him, so there's no guarantee. Now we know for sure we're not going to get him. We can focus on some other guys. So it might be a positive. It might be a big positive.
It is a positive, and I think it's good for the parity of the league to keep Giannis in a small market team like Milwaukee. It's going to keep the NBA competitive, especially the Eastern Conference, because the East has been very, very starved of star players in the past, at least the last 5 years, definitely since like LeBron left. There was a power surge in the East, and it's nice to see like the star players starting to move back to the East Coast, which is nice.
Yeah, we have been going for quite a while, so let's fire through some other news. JJ Barea, thank you,
Yes, sir.
was released by the Mavs. Mark Cuban purposely signed him to another contract, basically to thank him for all the years he was with the Mavs, which I assume means he gets the money, which I think was like a $2.3 million deal. So I think that was really nice by Cuban. I like that. I was a fan of it, and I think it's good for Barea. He said he's going to hopefully play one more last season in the NBA and then move into coaching, but I don't know if anybody will want to sign him following his ACL injury, but
JJ Barea is definitely my favorite NBA Oompa Loompa. I think he's very, very solid at playing an undersized position. Key piece, especially for that 2011 Dallas Mavericks run that they had. And a big star player out of Puerto Rico, and he was a big key piece in providing relief to his home country when they were under crisis for I think it was like a hurricane that happened. He had Mark Cuban's plane, and they were like flying resources out and stuff like that. So definitely shout out Mark Cuban. He's definitely one of the more respectable owners in the NBA, and I love JJ Barea's game, especially for like a lot of those guys that do like the hard over height kind of movement that happened, especially with who's that pitcher for the Blue Jays?
Marcus Stroman.
Thank you very much. Yeah, he's definitely like very much so. Yeah, he fits in that category. So I like JJ Barea, and I hope that he has a career outside of playing on the court. So.
Very, very true. Other news before we get into the COVID, Anthony Davis signed a 5-year, $100 million deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. Just an absolutely shocking new move. I never saw this coming. I'm shocked he did this.
Is that sarcasm?
Yes, of course it's sarcasm.
Okay,
Really?
cool. You had it written on the docs, like I didn't know for sure. I figured it was. But yeah, no, we all saw that coming. Good for Anthony Davis for getting the bag. I hope that the Lakers are able to transition from the LeBron and Anthony Davis era to the Anthony Davis moving on and winning out without LeBron in the future, because I really do love Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
True. Well, they've still got 2 more years of LeBron though, minimum. So we'll see what he decides to do once his contract expires, the year his son could be eligible to be drafted.
Yeah.
Which
stars are aligning.
It's his son and Anthony Davis. That's the next era.
I can almost guarantee you LeBron James will go to the team the team that drafts his son.
For sure.
No, I don't think he will. I bet you what's going to happen is he's going to go to the division rival of that team.
I don't know.
That'd be hilarious.
That's what if I was the father of a son that made the NBA too. Shit, if I was LeBron, I would want to kick his ass.
Maybe for 1 year. Yeah, it would be cool to play against your son and then play with him.
4 times in 1 year, 4 times. Oh my god! Every single time down the floor, it'd be post up. Like it would just be bully ball.
But the thing is, like, his son's not going to be a starter. He might will he be on the bench to start even?
But you gotta understand, like, it's LeBron. If LeBron wants his son to play, he's gonna talk to their coach and be like, "Hey, like,
that's true. Yeah,
you try to teach this little man a lesson and just show him the turnaround stuff."
Yeah.
It'll be like the 1 game a year he plays, or 4 games a year he plays.
I mean, Bronny James, he looks good, man. Like he's mad talented, and did you see that growth spurt he had? He's looking like he's got those LeBron James Jr. genetics. Like that is,
nice.
He went from Bronny to LeBron James Jr. Like we all saw that.
True. That is true. We'll see whether or not he can get to the NBA. Other max signings. Paul George signed a max extension with the Clippers. Just why?
You give me your take first, because then I'll go after.
He sucked in the playoffs. Why do they immediately sign him to an extension? A max extension. The second the playoffs end.
Yeah.
I just
panic move.
Yeah, I think they were trying to save face for the Clippers, saying like, "Oh, like we're just gonna weather the storm, like we're just gonna run it back, and everything's fine. We lost Montrezl Harrell, but that's okay." Like the thing that happened
to the city rivals.
Yeah, I know. If you remember, the year prior to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George coming, that Clippers team made the 8th seed. And they were one of the scrappiest, grittiest teams we saw in the NBA. Like that Patrick Beverly led nonsense on both sides of the floor. And like you could tell that he hadn't brushed his teeth in years. But he like that team was so gritty. And then they signed Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and that load management system started to take over, and they lost that edge. And I think after the season, like it was such a blunder losing in Game 7 to the Denver Nuggets, which, by the way, shout out to Jamal Murray. He's our next target for the Toronto Raptors. No, seriously, we need to get him. I think that they were trying to save face, and they signed Paul George to like a 5-year deal, and they got rid of Doc Rivers, right? Wasn't Paul George dating Doc Rivers' daughter? Is that confirmed? I'm pretty sure that was a real thing, was it not? And then they broke up, and then they got rid of Doc Rivers as coach.
Yes. I know they were dating at one point.
Yes.
Wait, there's some sort of relationship there.
Paul George?
Yeah, Paul George was dating his coach's daughter, and then they broke up, and then the Clippers got rid of Doc Rivers as the head coach. Shout out Paul George one time.
Yeah, hasn't it Doc Rivers' daughter been around the NBA a little bit? I think there's another player.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into that, or you can, we'll just fix it. Yeah, we'll be careful here. We'll be careful on this one.
We can just continue on.
Yeah, we'll be careful on that one.
Max extension. Good, bad, ugly, or probably will be ugly.
Ugly. He's only gonna get worse from here. Do you think Paul George is gonna? His best season was with the OKC Thunder. You guys remember that? He was almost an MVP.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a lot, and that was after he had snapped his leg in half, which is incredible. That was one of the craziest seasons I've seen from an NBA player. They played their, like, outside of like Adrian Peterson, who like he tore his ACL, I think, and then came back and had the best season of his career. Paul George like snapped his leg in half, played like a bit of a season in Indiana, got traded to OKC, and then had an MVP season with Russell Westbrook. And then since then he's been a shell of himself, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, except he bricked a shot off the side of the backboard in a playoff game.
That's true.
So
Pandemic P. Your boy.
yeah, he, let's just say he wasn't amazing, and then they signed him to a max extension. So I'm not a huge fan of the contract. But could be worse. You could be the NBA right now and having to release numbers that 48 players tested positive out of 546 total players tested, and then 3 more just tested positive today, or 1 more. I think it might have just been 1. But the NBA has had a COVID surprise as everyone showed up for training camps and preseason games, which the Raptors have played a couple. But we won't dive into that. Should this be a worry for the NBA? I'll bring in the MLS for a second. I believe it was their CFO, or it might have been Don Garber, who's their commissioner, said 20% of all players in MLS tested positive for the virus. So do you think that having 48 test positive straight from coming back off the gap is a big worry for the NBA? Or do you think this was going to happen and it's not really surprising?
I think it was kind of expected. Like coming right back, like it's tough to manage your cases right away. But I think once they get into the season and they, get everybody tested positive or tested negative, it should be okay. But like at the same time, this virus is still so unpredictable. Like we've seen with the NFL, like they've had their struggles as well. The MLS, they have their struggles. I'm sure the NHL will struggle when they get back. So there will be games that are canceled. There will be games that are postponed. Like it's going to be a challenge, but I think like the amount of cases that they've gotten so far was just expected. Like you can't really expect anything less.
I think this was expected, like Aiden said. I think even like in the bubble last year when players were initially showing up, there was like a couple cases and they had to quarantine for 14 days. So I think we were all kind of expecting that off the hop they would have some high case numbers. The one thing that I do want to acknowledge is that Adam Silver is, like, I think in my opinion, without a doubt, probably the best commissioner of all the 4 major sports. So I think the way that they've handled the coronavirus in general has been really solid as far as arranging their schedules and team traveling and their bubbles to make sure that they don't have high case numbers. So my expectation is that they're going to be, out of all the 4 major sports, they're probably going to do the best as far as handling the spread of COVID amongst their players. I think the NFL deserves to be crapped on for the way they've handled it. I think their approach was really stupid. They decided to instead enlarge the amount of players that they can put on their practice squad and their team because they understood that a lot of their players were going to test positive and they wanted the games to continue anyway. So that way they could call up more players to play in those games, which results in like the Thanksgiving Steelers versus Ravens game that never happened, which would have been a blowout for the Ravens. But life goes on. Life goes on.
And then that game gets postponed like to the Monday and then to the Tuesday and then I don't know what was played like the
Tuesday afternoon. Wednesday afternoon or something like that.
The Wednesday afternoon, and they didn't want to put it at night because of the New York City Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Rockefeller City Center Christmas tree lighting. So they played it at 3:00 in the afternoon. Which
America said we love trees.
Yeah, just hysterical, and the first time they've ever said that. But
Get one.
Other people that have tested positive, 3 people in the Raptors organization tested positive for COVID. We don't know who it is. We don't know what roles they played. But we do know 3 people tested positive. So the fact that it was only 3 is probably a good thing. But presumably a lot of them were living in Canada during the outbreak. I guess it's kind of a big number, but at the same time, it seems like they have it under control. However, they won't have it under control when they're playing with fans in the arena because they're doing that. Yeah.
Are they? I thought they were talking about possibly doing that based on like the state's restrictions. I know that they talked about that, but I don't know if the NBA is going to be too keen on that. What do you think?
They have said they will. Publicly. I believe they're going to have like 2,500-ish fans attending games. It's not a ton, but it is people in an indoor arena in Florida, which basically the entire state at this point probably has caught it.
Nobody cares about the virus.
Florida
they had the Lightning Stanley Cup parade.
Bro, Bro, Florida is the basement of America, bro. It's hot, it's muggy. No one wants to be down there, yet they all just chill down there anyway. Here's the thing: is that I I don't understand why these leagues and the overall government system is choosing economy over saving lives, and they've continued to choose that, and they've shown that they don't care. So I'm going to reserve my comment on this one. I think that if they can protect the health of citizens, they should choose to do so. I think the safest way to maybe to go about this is ensuring that people are getting tests before they go into stadiums, or at least getting a vaccine, and not doing what the NFL is doing, where they're just like, oh, like wear a mask, don't high five, and then they do, and then they put it on TV,
and then they party in the locker rooms.
I digress. I know.
Yeah. So they're hosting. Well, they've already had the 2 preseason games, but they'll be hosting fewer than 3,200 seats for the preseason games and 3,800 seats for regular season games. They will not be selling any floor seats, and nobody will be sitting within 30 feet of the court.
Oh.
So the players are safe. It's just everybody else that
screwed.
isn't.
Yeah.
So the way that I've understood the disease and the research that I've done is that the virus is obviously, as we all know, an airborne disease, and ventilation is a big factor that matters. And face masks are important because the way that the virus works is that the more virus that you take in, the sicker that you get. It's called your viral load. So I guess if they're able to socially distance, put in nice ventilation systems, and ensure that patrons are wearing masks and like have gotten vaccines or COVID tests done, and they can reduce the viral load in the indoor arena, I guess it should work out. But I don't know, man. Like, again, this is another situation where they're picking like economy over human life, and I'm not really here for it. But what's your guys' take?
It's money. I think that's the only reason. Like,
I
you got a
trust the
vaccine
NBA
coming.
to do it right.
Yeah, that's true as well. Like Ethan said, like the NBA has handled COVID probably the best out of any league. Just in terms of the return to play as well, they were the first league to come back with an actual plan. So they've been on top of their stuff. But also, like, I look at, apparently there's going to be a vaccine coming within the next couple months. Like, is it really worth having fans?
They're already giving out the vaccine.
And here they are.
Ontario.
Yeah.
The CDC and FDA just okayed, I believe, the Pfizer one over the weekend. So the U.S. should be I think they've had some in New York already being given out.
I think in New York, nurse practitioner or something like that got the first one.
Yeah. Britain, they've been giving it out, but they're not giving it to people with severe allergies because it can cause severe allergic reactions.
Oh, man.
But that's apparently very rare. And as long as you don't have allergies, you should be fine.
I have a nut allergy. I don't know if that's bad or not. But yeah.
You should be fine because of the thousands and thousands of tests they've done and trials they've done. It only happened in a few people, and I presume a lot more people had nut allergies than just the 2 people who
probably
had this serious allergic reactions in Britain. But I might be completely wrong. I need to do more research into it. This is something that is very difficult to understand.
Yeah, especially for me as a sport media student. Like, I dropped out of science in grade 11, so like I have no idea what's going on.
Same. Yeah.
Same. But yeah, so they're requiring masks as well. Anybody over the age of 2 will have to wear a mask. They will have enhanced surface and air disinfection systems, physical distancing in the stands and while navigating the venue, a health survey screening for all guests as they enter the facility, cashless payments in the parking lot and for food and beverage services, and bags are prohibited for all Raptors games at the arena.
Yeah.
So that is from the Blake Murphy tweet, which he got the statement from, I presume, the Raptors themselves. It'll be interesting to see what the screening is, whether or not it's just a temperature screening or if it could potentially be a rapid test. But yeah, of all the NBA teams, I trust the Raptors to do it right. I think they're probably, of my knowledge, one of the most well-managed and organized teams in the league. And I think Masai is very aware of everything. So I trust him to do this right. I don't know if I might be completely out of left field with this, and Masai might be an anti-vaxxer, but I assume he isn't. So do you agree with me, or do you think that this is still a bad idea, even if it's the Raptors, who have been well known and it's been well documented how successful they've been in the past with stuff involving off the court activities?
I'll let Aiden take this one.
I mean, I still think and it's just my opinion. I just don't think any team should be having fans in stadiums. Like, even like the NFL games that I watch, and you see like the Chiefs and the Cowboys stadiums with a ton of fans. I'm just like, really, like, I don't think it's the time. It's not yet ready for fans and stands. As far as the Raptors being a team that would handle the situation well, I could see it. Definitely Masai will handle it well, but maybe we're just saying that because we know the Raptors a lot more than other people, and like teams in like LA or in the States might be handling it better. We don't know. Like, we might just be biased. Yeah, I just still don't like the ideas of having fans in stands, to be honest. Like, I know it's more enjoyable and the fans want to go to games, and the NBA teams and the NFL teams need to make money, but I'm just not a fan of it, to be honest.
I think for me, I think American culture is so like easily influenced by like the media that's like important to like kind of represent like the healthy practices on screen. So I think it's kind of interesting that like they're requiring these coaches to wear masks at games, which like doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Because like I understand that like being vocal is a big part of their job, and having a mask on makes it kind of difficult. But I understand why representation matters. But I think having fans in the stands sends the wrong impression that this is like something that's been like this virus is something that's been dealt with and that we've moved past from, and that if you wear a mask that you're completely protected from the virus, which is just simply not true. It just lowers your viral load, so it just prevents you from getting super sick. It doesn't prevent you from getting sick in general. So I don't think we're at a place right now where we can confidently put fans in stadiums. So yeah, I disagree.
All right. We've been going for almost 2 hours, so let's quickly fire through the hockey and the baseball, and we'll touch a bit in detail on the boxing, because I think the boxing news is hysterical. And we'll talk a little bit about NFL or football before we wrap up. But NHL, more CBA information. I don't want to talk about it, so we're not going to. Some teams want to play some of their home games outdoors. This might allow fans the ability to attend games. I love the idea, personally, although the two teams that showed initial interest were the Anaheim Ducks and the Los Angeles Kings. So I don't know how they're going to do that, but I think it'd be hilarious. I think it'd be amazing. I think it'd be a great way to bring eyes in if you're playing games all the time outdoors.
Yeah.
Although it's going to be mega expensive, because especially in California, keeping ice is not exactly cheap. But in a place like Winnipeg, you might need to heat up everything to keep the players safe, as opposed to cool everything down. So maybe that's more realistic, but I don't know. Do you guys like the idea of playing hockey games outdoors on a consistent basis? Or do you think it's stupid and this idea should be dead in the water because it'll never work?
I don't think it'll work on a consistent basis. I could see it happening for like maybe the opening game and like a game midway through the year. I don't think you can play a 56 game season all outdoors. That's just so much work will have to go into that. I don't see that working.
I think from like a fan perspective, I think I would love that. I think it'd be like really, really fun to watch and intriguing to like kind of see like brought to life. I think from a sport media perspective, if I had to work that game, I would hate my life and I would be pissed. Like I would want to fight. Like it would be like hands on deck. I would wake up and choose violence with like whoever decided to make us stand outside with a camera and stand still for like, I don't know, 3 hours. Like it's different when you're the athlete and you're out there like moving and stuff and you're breaking a sweat. But like if you're just standing there holding the camera, I'd be devastated.
It's not as bad as you think it is. From experience attending a soccer game outdoors twice in December. If you wear layers, you're fine.
See, I got like low like iron and like a bad blood pressure, so like I feel like I would just freeze in general. But I respect that you're able to like wear layers and be.
My hands are frozen right now, so when I'm outside,
Ethan, I'm the exact same as you. So
all right, cool.
I understand it, but like, if you wear enough layers, you're fine. The only issues are your feet and your hands, and they've done this enough, and they've done enough outdoor games in various sports that I'm sure they have the ability to do this. Although I can agree with you, I would not be too pleased to have to stand out in the middle of Winnipeg winter
Yeah.
with no protection around you for 3 hours.
I
That
could pick.
might kill you.
If I could pick, I would pick indoors as a media person. But as a fan, though, I love to watch an outdoor game. I think that stuff is like very like beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
I love watching outdoor hockey.
I maintain the NHL should open their season on Lake Louise between Calgary and Edmonton. That would be unbelievable. But we'll see whether or not they can make it happen. They're
spitting right now.
Yeah, they're aiming for a January 13th start date. That's not going to happen.
You don't think so?
It's just not feasible at this point. They'd have to start quarantining like 2 days from now if they wanted to do that, in addition to putting on a training camp and potentially playing preseason games. It's probably looking early February, late January, I'd say at the earliest, in my personal opinion, but we'll see. They're going to do potentially a 56 game schedule. I don't know if that'll happen either, but it's the NHL being very optimistic, I'd say, is the best way of putting it. While the NBA is starting games in less than or just over a week. No, less than a week.
Well, we all know that the NBA can't miss a Christmas Day quadruple header. They will never miss that.
That is true. They should have started their season on Christmas.
I'll be heat. But I'm excited for December 22nd start because I've been fiending for some basketball.
Yeah, fully agree. It's going to be good to have some live sports back that aren't football. And well, I've had soccer for the last while, but that just ended on the weekend. Which, if you want to hear about my thoughts on the MLS game, go to the MLS Multiplex podcast and get my thoughts on Columbus defeating Seattle in absolute demolishing. But
link in the description.
Yeah,
we'll see whether or not Aiden links it, but I doubt.
No, Aiden has to now because I said.
I'll link it.
We had two good podcasts the last week. We had Rachel Dory from the Staff and Graph podcast on to talk some TFC stuff, and she dropped a couple of pretty big tidbits and bombs, I'd say, on the TFC DP search and manager stuff, and all fun things that both Aiden and Ethan don't understand any of, and probably any of the people listening to this, but I digress. Philip Myers signed a 3-year, $7.65 million extension with the Philadelphia Flyers. Cool.
Yeah.
Oscar Lindbaum, in better news, is cancer-free. He is officially in remission following a test today. Yes, I agree, Ethan. It's unbelievable. After what he had to go through being diagnosed with Ewing's sarcoma, which is a rare form of bone cancer, and surviving that, going through chemotherapy, and I assume also radiation, and somehow managing to do warm-ups and stuff in the bubble. It's great to see. It's great to see what the Flyers did in terms of giving him a big contract, even though they don't know whether or not he will be the same when he comes back to playing actual games, but you'll have to see it, and I think it's just great to see. It's a huge positive light in a year that has been just nuclear bomb in terms of positivity. But yeah. Let's move on to our next debate topic. And by debate topic, I mean we'll probably just skip over it because they're not going to cancel it. The World Juniors, should they happen? Yes or no? Aiden, your thoughts?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, Canada's got some cases. Teams are coming in. Might not be the safest thing to do.
Sweden have 2 coaches, maybe.
Figure it out. That's my advice. Like, the World Juniors need to happen. You're doing a bubble. You're not traveling. You're in one spot. Figure it out. Like, they gotta figure it out. Like, yeah, they gotta happen.
I'm gonna jump in here and agree with Aiden on this one. Typically, I would say like don't do it because of COVID, but this one I feel like if they can bubble up and make it safe and for all the workers involved and as well as the athletes. I feel like it'd be a really, really interesting World Juniors to watch happen. And I hope it's the type of situation where it's like the NBA bubble where like teams have to like cross paths with each other in like the cafeteria or something like that. And there's like little beefs that happen that we get to get storylines out of. But I feel like it could be really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I stand on the other side of the table.
Wow.
I don't think it should happen.
Interesting.
These are
Teenagers?
children. You are
Children?
putting these children at risk.
Yeah,
Yes.
but children are
children-
most immune to it, right?
Yeah,
But we don't know the
but, like-
long-term effects.
That's true.
But like, I mean, come
For
on,
all
bro,
we
let's,
know, like,
let's put.
But would you rather have people this age or seniors?
I'd rather neither. That's why I don't think they should be putting it on.
True.
I guess. Yeah.
That's my argument.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like,
Like, if you're concerned about that long-term effects, let's talk about the phone in your pocket. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, like,
Screen
much-
that you're
how
staring at right now.
how much radiation have you? I mean, at this point, we might as well just stand in front of the microwave whenever we like put some in there. We might as well.
it's you make a good point. But I think this potentially has more implications on their potential career.
True.
Based on, like, you look at what happened to pitcher on the Red Sox. Name starts with an E.
Eduardo Rodriguez.
Yes, I think Eduardo Rodriguez. How he had the heart issues. He couldn't play the season, and he's only just getting back to it. If that happens to one of these kids, that's their career, and they have nothing to fall back on. So, is it worth the risk to bring them into a centralized location in a province that, shall we say, hasn't handled the virus the best out of all of the Canadian provinces? Although I can't really say much being in Ontario. But do you want to put them in that situation?
I don't know. I think that if
They are kids.
if they're in a bubble and they're getting tested daily and they followed like everything the NBA did with their bubble and the NHL did with their bubble, then there shouldn't really be a problem, I don't think. As long as everybody stays inside the bubble, it should be fine, I think.
Yeah. I get why they want to play. And I think playing is ultimately the right decision, but I don't think they should play.
Okay.
If you get my drift.
From an
Because-
ethical standpoint, I stand with you, Connor. But like at the
Yeah.
same time, though, I live for beef, and there's possibility for beef to arise. It's gonna be this World Juniors, and it's gonna be because they're all cooped up in a goddamn bubble. I'm so excited.
It's true.
It's not
And
like it's
there are
a
a
long
bunch
tournament,
of
right? It's how long is this tournament? Like 2 weeks?
yeah,
They're
like
not
2
going to be
weeks.
in there for that
2
long.
weeks.
It's gonna be feisty, bro. I can feel it. Like I just know. Like,
And their
young.
hormones are going to be through
Yeah,
the roof.
that's what I'm
Emotions are
saying.
going to be.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
They got to get a TSN crew following every team around.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, we'll see whether or not it happens. Puck drops December 25th this year,
26th.
I believe.
Really?
Oh, they're not doing
Really?
Boxing Day?
I believe they're starting on Christmas this year.
Oh,
way.
that's cool.
I think. I'm not 100% certain on that. But I'm pretty sure they're starting on Christmas this year. So they'll have to compete with the NBA Christmas Day games, which shouldn't be that hard in Canada because Toronto aren't playing in it again, which, what a shocker. But let's move on to the MLB and Hyunjin Ryu being named to the All-MLB second team. Congratulations to him. He's been a great pickup for Toronto and will hopefully be joined by somebody good soon from free agency. Next up, Cleveland changing their name. They aren't changing their name yet, though. They're waiting until it's financially viable. So, way to do not even the bare minimum in terms of going by the Cleveland baseball team for X amount of time and then coming up with an actual name because you're using a racial slur. But that's the MLB for you.
I think it's like kind of frustrating that's taken this long, and especially like given that the Redskins like had gotten rid of their name, and then that now they're like establishing themselves as like a stubborn the Washington football team and are like refusing to even get a name.
Yeah.
Like it just seems like they're being so prideful about like using cultural appropriation for like indigenous like names and artwork. Yeah, if you get what I'm saying. So like that's what I'm saying. Like the Blackhawks got to change their name. I even think the Canucks should change their name. I think. I mean, on top of two, like the Atlanta Braves should change their logo at the least. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make sense to me. Like why is it? And we talked about this in Curtis Mallory's class, but why is it always indigenous culture that's appropriated in sports? It's never anybody else. You know, you're not gonna catch a Cleveland Caucasians out there. It's always indigenous team related names. So
And
I'm
this
happy.
happens like. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just saying this happens the week that the MLB recognizes I can't say the first name league as an MLB league from 19 something to 1942 or something.
Oh, like the African American League from the 1940s.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, I got you. Yeah. Okay. I mean, like, yeah, the Black League was an important part, especially for like integrating the game and making it one cohesive sort of game. Traditionally for the sport of America, but yeah, I don't know. It's so deep rooted in the game of baseball that like it's important that they recognize it, address it, and then continue to look back on it. Because if this is the type of thing where they just brush it up underneath the rug, I'm going to be frustrated.
Yeah, I agree. And I, with your Washington statement, I don't know if it's necessarily that they're refusing to pick a name. I think it's the fact that they need to figure out a way to appease both sides in keeping the history, but also not being completely and utterly racist.
Yeah.
But again, this should have happened 20 years ago, or should have happened never. Ideally,
Yeah.
should never have been their name. But
Fair
here
enough.
we are. And the thing with it, I don't think that the Blackhawks should change their name. I think they should change their logo because their logo is very bad. But the name has good roots.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my take on it. I don't think there's any other baseball news. I did hear I attended a panel discussion thing, which had Mark Shapiro on it on Monday night, and he mentioned in it they don't know where or when the MLB season is going to start for them.
Yeah, jeez.
So
It's never going to start. Like, oh my god. MLB is just awful, man. Yep, we've heard nothing. We've heard absolutely nothing about their season. And, like, free agency has been a disaster, too. Like, nobody's been signed.
yeah, there's been like 2 signings, maybe 3.
Yeah.
Although that is baseball for you. Either way, let's talk NFL and then we'll finish off on boxing because I find the boxing so funny and I think it's going to be fun to end on it. But NFL football, Sarah Fuller made history. She is the first woman to score a point in a Big Ten football game. Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
Massive respect to her for what she's been able to do and just for everything that she's been able to accomplish. From winning an SEC title in women's soccer to then kicking field goals for their football team is unbelievable. So massive respect to her.
Yeah, I think it's really important, especially especially right now, to build like a foundation of media coverage around women's sports, especially women representation in both like men's sports and women's sports. I know that like, especially if you go online, especially on Twitter, and you watch the highlights of her kicking, and you go down the comment section, it's a horrible place to live. But I feel like over time that will change. And I feel like it's going to take. It takes a first step of putting that on the timeline for us to get to a place where women in sports is more appreciated. So I think it's really important for the game. It's awesome to see that Sarah Fuller was able to accomplish that, and she's a tremendous athlete. And I feel like more than anybody, I feel like her peers are the ones that give her the most respect. You know, if you watch after the game, like a lot of the players are going up and dapping her up and taking pictures and. I think there's a common understanding once athletes about like what they do and the respect they have for each other. So definitely respect to Sarah Fuller.
Yeah. I don't know how much time you want to take on the NFL, Ethan. This is all your call, and Aiden as well, because we have kept you for over 2 hours.
It's all good, Doug.
But
just looking at what you got here, right? If you don't mind me, I'm gonna blast this real quick because I do actually want to get to this boxing stuff. I can't lie to you.
all right, let's do it.
So we'll go through a speed round real quick. Cleveland versus Baltimore. Aiden, what'd you think?
All right, so I watched the fourth quarter of this game, and obviously, like, it was insane. Lamar Jackson, everybody knows what happened, leaves the field, goes inside his locker room for, like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, then comes back onto the field and wins the game for the Ravens. It was so exciting. And, like, in my opinion, these two teams now really solidify themselves as true contenders in the AFC. In my opinion, I know the Chiefs and Steelers are still very, very good, but I could see Cleveland making some noise in the playoffs. I could see the Ravens. You can't count them out yet, and you can't count out Lamar Jackson. That's my biggest takeaway in this. So, Ethan, did you watch the game?
Yeah, I did, man. We actually did a show in second year called End Zone, and I talked a little bit about how much I have a distaste for Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns. But I'm gonna retract some of my statements and say that Baker Mayfield is a lot more poised as a quarterback now, and I think this is his third season or fourth season. I don't remember now. But I think what's the biggest difference maker is not only the time he has in the pocket, but he used to be a quarterback that after he went through his first and his second read, he would scramble, throw the ball away, or take a sack. He's now a quarterback that's able to get out in space, go to his third read, or do some improvisation on the outside of the pocket. So I'm very glad to see that he's improved. And again, Lamar Jackson is a stud. We all know that. Connor, any thoughts on the Cleveland versus Baltimore game?
I did not watch it, but I was working on paper that was due that night.
Fair enough. Across the board, do we have any Super Bowl picks though?
It was, yeah, let's get into that. I just wanted to say that safety at the end was just awful, though.
That hurt my spread.
But also, that safety won me first place in my fantasy league. If that didn't happen, I won by .02. I finished in first place in the regular season, so playoffs are still going on. Semifinals this week. But yeah, I won by I was at .76. The guy in second was at .74, and I had the Ravens defense. If that safety doesn't happen, so I'm in second. So it was crazy. It was pretty crazy, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, second place is currently fuming.
Well, honestly, I would have preferred to finish in second because my matchup this week, the semifinal matchup against the guy who was in fourth place, is extremely tight. Like, he has projections through the roof. He has Derrick Henry against the Lions, and he's going to go off against them.
God.
So I would have preferred to play the guy in third because he's not projected to do as well, but tough luck, I guess. So, yeah.
It's tough. What's your Super Bowl predictions?
Yeah.
We'll get into it.
What did I say a couple weeks ago? I think I said Steelers, but I don't know about it anymore. They don't look too good against in the past 2 weeks. Ever since that game got delayed against the Ravens, they've gone 0-2. I don't know. It's tough. I guess in the AFC, like, it's the boring pick, but I got to go with the Chiefs. The Chiefs just look too good.
They are.
And, like, Mahomes is just insane. Tyreek Hill is looking on another level this year. And then in the NFC, it's interesting because, like, you cannot count out Tom Brady. The Saints are in a pickle right now because of Drew Brees, and Kamara hasn't been good the past couple of weeks as well. I think everybody's kind of...
I believe Drew Brees... Sorry to cut you off, Aiden. I believe Drew Brees might have just been announced that he is coming back.
Oh, okay.
This weekend, potentially.
Oh, yeah. Right. I think he's making a return. I don't know how good his chest is going to be, but we're going to hope those ribs are intact.
Yeah. Let's hope so. In the NFC, it's a toss-up, but and Seattle was off to such a hot start too, and they've kind of fallen off a bit. I'm gonna say the Bucks against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I could see that. I would agree with that. I feel like that'd be my take too.
Yeah,
can't go wrong with that. I hate the fact that Tom Brady is going to be back in there, but I think he really might be. It pisses me off to my core. But...
And like that's the story. Like the young guy, the next Tom Brady potentially against the GOAT. See who can come out on top.
Fair enough.
And another Super Bowl year with all red teams. Because last year was 49ers and Chiefs, and now be Bucks. Yeah.
True.
Huh. Ethan, who are your picks?
For me, like, I'm biased because like the Saints are my team, so like I still think that we have a chance, but it really just comes down to whether or not Drew Brees can make a solid comeback and really like lead this team, because we've been shafted the last like 4 seasons, including the Minneapolis Miracle, the no call against the Rams. I can't even explain to you the amount of pain I have been through the last 4 seasons, and I've had enough. And I really thought this was our year. Our defense was solid. I really like our secondary. I feel like Drew Brees is his like last real shot at winning a Super Bowl. He won one in 2011, I think. I'm tired. I'm tired of getting shafted in the postseason. I truly believe this is our year. I think we're gonna do it.
Didn't you win a chip like not even a decade ago?
Yeah, I think 2011 was that not? We won against the Colts. Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we
you
had
haven't been struggling for that long.
No, like we've. It's not like we've struggled. It's just like every year for the past 4 seasons in the playoffs, it's been nothing but agony and just.
As a Lions fan, I feel you. I feel you.
No, you have a different kind of pain, bro.
Yeah, I know, man. You don't have to tell me about that. Yeah, I know.
I mean, I feel for you, but the person I feel the worst for is Matthew Stafford.
Yep.
Oh my God, what a waste of talent. Oh, Detroit hates, like, Detroit just must hate Matthew Stafford because if they actually liked him, they would have traded him away. They've been like, we understand.
I think I don't really need to get into it, but I think Stafford wants to stay in Detroit. Like, he wants it to work out. And, like, he's been the face of Detroit ever since he got there, really. Like,
are you sure?
Maybe
you remember
someone on the Red
maybe
Wings.
Calvin
Johnson, for sure. You're right, Calvin Johnson. But
yeah.
Stafford and Johnson played together as well.
Yeah, so. But, like, I think Calvin Johnson early on, like, made Matthew Stafford into the star-level quarterback. Not like he didn't have the potential. He did. It's just that, like, Calvin Johnson brought that out of him early on.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk boxing?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Right.
I'm so excited.
I don't know how he. Yeah. I don't know how he keeps doing this. Both of them, actually. Floyd Money Mayweather needs some money, so he is fighting Logan Paul on February 20th, 2021. How many rounds does Logan Paul last before we have to put him in a literal coffin?
Can I go first?
Yeah.
5. I'm going to say 5. And I say 5 because if you watch the Conor McGregor fight against Floyd Mayweather, it's the first time that Floyd Mayweather had fought somebody that was not naturally a boxer. And I'm not saying that Logan Paul has the same skill set as Conor McGregor because he doesn't. What I'm saying is that Floyd Mayweather is a counter puncher boxer. He is at his prime when he lets the fight come to him. I think very often, if you do his research on Floyd Mayweather, he doesn't really study his opponent. He just gets in the ring and feels it out. So I think what's going to happen is Logan Paul is going to come out the gate swinging heavy. He's going to spend the first 2 rounds just throwing absolute bombs at Floyd Mayweather. And then I think Floyd Mayweather, who's the much smaller competitor in this fight, I think he's going to pick him apart round 3, round 4, and then by round 5, it's just going to be an absolute murder scene. I think they're going to have to put up some yellow tape. I think we're going to watch the demise of Logan Paul. I'm going to eat it up. I'm going to eat it up. I'm going to love it. But I don't know.
So good.
It's going to feel so good. Oh my God. What do you guys think?
No. Okay. How many rounds does Logan last? I do have to agree with Ethan. I don't think it's going to be like a quick fight. I did look at the McGregor fight as well, and that one went to like round 11, I think, or 10 or 11. So Mayweather did wait a long time to throw punches because he was mostly playing defense the entire fight. The thing is, against Logan, I don't know if Floyd is just gonna like stay back. I think he might actually go forward in round 1 and take the fight to him. So it could end quicker. I don't see Logan getting knocked out though. I don't. You think so?
Yeah, Aiden.
Oh my God,
this is a guy who's had 2 professional fights, of which he's drawn and lost to a guy who was shorter than him.
Okay, let me finish though. And there's a difference between a knockout and a TKO. I don't think Logan is actually going to get physically knocked out like Nate Robinson did, like where he's not getting up. I think there could be a TKO for sure. It's probably going to end in a TKO. Logan gets knocked down once, and then he looks shaken. Like, Floyd's obviously going to... It's not going to go with the scorecards. There's no way it'll go with the scorecards.
No.
If they go to the scorecards, Logan Paul has done the impossible.
Dude, Logan Paul has already done the impossible. Forgetting this fight, he's done the impossible. If he lasts a round, if he lasts 2 rounds, 3 rounds, 4 rounds... That's insane. Like, respect to him for even lasting that long against Floyd Mayweather. So,
And you know what? This isn't even the craziest storyline to come out of this, because the real storyline is Jake Paul calling out Conor McGregor with a $50 million check, telling him that his wife is ugly, and then unfollowing everyone on Instagram except for Conor McGregor's wife. Like,
and Dylan
how
Dennis'
psychotic.
girlfriend. Yeah.
How psychotic do you have to be? How much of a sociopath do you have to be to do that?
Mhm.
And he's serious. Like, he genuinely believes that he's going to win.
Yeah.
Do you see what Dana White proposed?
Yes.
No, I didn't see that.
I believe it was Amanda Nunes and him in the ring. Not in the ring, in the octagon.
I don't know if Jake Paul would come out alive in the octagon. I think a boxing ring.
Keep in mind, he did used to wrestle.
No,
whatever.
It wasn't him. Was it? I thought it was Logan.
They both did. They both did.
It's not the same. Like, the octagon's a much more dangerous place. You understand too. Like, you gotta give Logan and Jake a little bit of respect here, because boxing and UFC is not a sport in the sense that you can just go out and play it. This is not like basketball where you can just go out and play some basketball on the weekend. You can't just go do some boxing on the weekend. This is a lifestyle. You have to have the mental acuity to be okay with getting smacked in the mouth and then smacking someone else in the mouth, which they both actually have. And it's weird to watch because they're YouTubers.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And, like, Jake has no reason to be talking like this to Conor or Dylan Dennis, honestly. Like,
no.
He's had 2 fights. I know McGregor's only had 1, but, like, this guy is probably the most vicious knockout artist in sports, I would say. MMA.
Never mind the fact that he trained boxing for his entire life.
Yeah, exactly. So he has no reason to be calling out McGregor right now. He needs a lot more fights under his belt. If the money is true, $50 million, Conor, what are you doing? Take the fight right now. Knock this guy out because everybody wants you to. He's calling out your wife or girlfriend. Are they married? Are they?
They're married.
They're married.
Wife, yeah, they're married.
He's calling them out. He's calling out your training partner. He's saying that he's better than you, and he's offering you $50 million. Do it. Why not? What's stopping you?
Is McGregor even allowed to box right now?
True.
Because doesn't he have a UFC fight coming up?
I'm not sure.
True. I think the last thing that I'm going to say about this is that the one key thing to remember, especially in these 2 fights, is just from a standpoint of size, is that Logan Paul is actually a very big person.
Yes.
And Floyd Mayweather is not. Yeah. Conor McGregor is also not a very big person. I believe Floyd Mayweather is like 5'9", Conor McGregor is like 5'10". Logan Paul is like 6'2", Jake Paul is like 6'2". So, like, there is a bit of a height difference and size difference happening here. I understand the skill set's going to, like, kind of handicap that situation. But I'm reserving the surprise factor if a win comes out of one of the Paul brothers, if you know what I'm saying. Like, I won't be shocked.
For sure.
It could happen.
I agree with
anything
that.
can happen.
I 100% agree with that. If Logan Paul had the capability to shock the world and land this fight itself, he has the capability to knock him out. And he said it himself. If he can land one clean right hand against Floyd, there's a chance he's knocking him down. Because he's, 40 pounds or 50 pounds heavier than him, and he's 6 inches taller than him. I don't think Mayweather's ever been hit with a punch that's going to be that hard. And he could get...
How old?
Exactly.
How old is Floyd Mayweather?
He's 43, and Logan is 23, I think. So
Jesus.
There's a big advantage. And I think it could happen. Skyler put out this poll, I think on his random podcast Instagram account, just saying say a hot take or something like that. And I said Logan Paul beats Floyd Mayweather, knocks him out in round 4. I think.
Wow.
I think if Logan lands a clean punch, why not? Why not? It could happen. That's all he needs, and he's planning to shock the world. He's going in there with no pressure at all. This is just for fun. Like, every single round that he lasts, that's just more clout going to him. And Logan's a jokester. Logan likes to do crazy things, and he's all for this. He's also humbled, right? He's not like Jake, where Jake's just calling out these guys, saying that they're bad, saying that he would win. Logan seems really humbled by this. He knows the caliber of fighter that Mayweather is. He knows that he's fighting a legend. He's respectful. He knows it's gonna be a challenge. He's not gonna trash
He knows
talk.
he's gonna get his ass kicked.
He doesn't know that. And honestly, Connor, I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna get his ass kicked. Maybe in the later
All right,
rounds,
well,
but
let's do hot takes now because that's a hot take.
okay, I guess it is. It doesn't feel like that big of a hot take, but I think Logan is humbled. He knows what he's up against. He knows that Mayweather is the best fighter on the planet. More importantly, the best defensive fighter on the planet. But he's training to knock him out, and if he lands one punch, then I think it might be night. That's the hot take, I guess. Logan Paul
That's
knocks
true.
out Mayweather.
That is true. All it takes is one punch.
Yeah.
Puncher's chance.
Well, Ethan, we do a recurring segment on our show, which we wrap up with, called Hot Takes. We didn't warn you about this because we always forget to, unless Aiden did it before I showed up. But basically, we just give a hot take at the end of every episode, and we see whether or not they come true. So Aiden has said in the past, he predicted Mike Babcock would get fired in 2 weeks, and that ended up happening. Whereas I said the MLB would be the first league back in June, and, well, that didn't happen. But you see where we're going with this. Aiden, your hot take is...
I think I've kind of just said it. Like,
I was going to say, just recap it.
Yeah, Logan Paul knocks out Floyd Mayweather in the fourth round. It's going to be... I'll also say some specifics. In the third round, Logan's going to land a clean punch, and it's going to shake Mayweather. He's going to fall back a little bit, and then in the fourth round, he just finishes him off. That'd be insane. I think that's going to happen.
That would be nuts.
Yeah.
Ethan, do you have one, or would you like me to say mine first?
You go ahead.
My hot take is the Raptors should not go after Kawhi Leonard if he becomes available. They should instead go after Rudy Gobert.
That is a hot take.
Yes, it is. I think as a center, he'd fit in well with the culture here, especially as a very defensive player who's willing to sacrifice a lot. They'll need to teach him a bit about COVID, but I think he could be a good fit on this team and could be an interesting addition. And it would allow OG to continue playing very regular minutes, which I think will be huge because he's going to blow up. Ethan?
Fair enough. Funny enough, man, my blog in high school that used to apply to this program was called Hot Takes. So
Nice.
yeah, you guys want to check that out? My 2018 paragraphs on nonsense. My hot take this season is that Fred VanVleet will be an all-star.
Ooh.
Wow, okay.
That's good. He was
Yes,
close
sir.
last year, wasn't he?
He was close. He was playing good, but I think, bro, he got the money. He's got the money to invest in his body, in his game. I think he's gonna kill it this season. I'm so excited.
I like it. Well, Ethan, we want to thank you for spending the last 2.5 hours with us, taking the time out of your probably busy Wednesday night. We genuinely really appreciate it. We will link all of his stuff down below in the description of the YouTube video and potentially in the podcast audio if Aiden uploads that still. I can't remember if you do.
Yep, Spotify. Yep. It's all up there.
So go check that out. His Twitter. We'll link his website, his YouTube account, the United Wasteman podcast. Go and check that out. Go and check out the episode of Skylar's podcast he did yesterday, which came out today. I'm sure Aiden will link that down below as well as I give him more work to do. But keep an eye on our social medias because we'll be making an announcement about an upcoming episode very soon. So get excited for that. But with that, thank you, Ethan.
Hey,
sorry.
Thank you guys for having me on. First of all, and enjoy your holiday break.
Thank you. You as well. But we will see all of you next week.